I wonder who wrote the book of love?
Tell me, who wrote the book of love? I've got to know the answer. Was it someone from above?
I wonder who wrote the book of love?
I love you.
I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow it's cloud illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel as every fairy tale comes real. I've looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave 'em laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let 'em know. Don't give yourself away. I've looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feathered canyons everywhere. I've looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on everyone. So many things I would have done, but clouds got in my way. I've looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down, and still somehow I recall. I really don't know clouds at all.
In these most challenging moments, we find the greatest rewards. To paraphrase Ginger Rogers on Fred Astaire, we did everything regular people did on our vacation in Phoenix, just with mental and physical challenges. For the younger crowd, Ginger Rogers did everything that Fred Astaire did. She just did it backwards in high heels.
Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day, when it seems like there's no
Passports, driver's license to chargers, from toiletries to snacks. For the journey, we double-checked every item on the list. We wanted our venture to Phoenix to be seamless and memorable, and paying attention to the smallest detail was essential. We're going to try this again with see if our microphones work. You want to test it there? Say test 1, 2, 3.
Test 1, 2, 3.
All right. We're thinking about, well, we are. We're going to go Thursday out to Phoenix, and I was thinking what you wanted to see while you were out there. I know that when we get to the airport, we're supposed to be picked up by Waymo, and then we're going to ride in it over to our Airbnb, and then we're going to check in there, and we probably have to get some food. What do you need for food, do you think?
Just, I don't know. It's just something here and there. I don't know.
Just the basics?
Yeah, just the basics.
And you know that we're real close to the fashion mall, so we got access to a lot of food courts.
Like Starbucks and all that.
Starbucks is there, and then you can go over just a little bit further to the old Scottsdale, and then we can go. We'll be seeing Sid and Sharon Shreve. You looking forward to seeing them?
Yes, it's something different.
Something different. All right. So it'll be hot, but you think you can manage that because we're going to be indoors a lot.
Actually, I can manage it because I've got the right clothes.
All right. What else do you want to do? The car, you think you can handle the self-driving car, and then we're going to go to see the Glenn Campbell Band at.
And we're going to go to Old Town Scottsdale, and I don't know what else.
You want to see the art there, and you want to see some of the other things.
Yes.
And we'll go see some other things, museums. We may see some big.
We're going to get some influence from some people that live there.
All right, so they'll tell us what to do.
Yes.
And then we'll try to do whatever they suggest, and then see how close we are to things. And then we know there's a church that's pretty close, and then we know that there's some other things that we can do, and we'll just kind of work them in as we feel like it. Does that sound okay to you?
Yes, we feel like it, or me and Mom.
Right. All right. Well, it's good to be here in the Boone County Airport Manager. And we got Judy McCutcheon. And how are you doing today, Judy?
I'm doing great. It's just a beautiful day, and things are going well.
Well, we're getting ready to fly out tomorrow morning. I think it's a 6:30 flight to Dallas, and then we're going to go on there to Phoenix. And, in the middle of summer, people say, what's up? And we're going to go out there and find out a little bit about artificial intelligence and just kind of meet some friends that we have, and maybe match up to a former, I guess, a person that's born here, Bryce Mulder, on the PGA Tour, and he's kind of doing a second job now. So we're looking forward to that. Tell me, how things are going with I know.
Okay, this is my trip to the airport approximately 25 years ago. And as you note, there's a BMW for product placement. So I thought I'd put that out there, but you'll get a look at the airport and what it is to enter the airport and how easy it is to pick up a passenger or to depart.
But it's parking. It's free parking right at the front door. You were talking about being disabled. It's one level. You park in the front door. You don't have 20 steps before you're walking in the terminal, if that. And then when you land in Dallas, if you're going beyond, you got a shuttle that takes you. If you're just going to Dallas, whoever's picking you up there, it's free parking at Corporate Aviation, so they can pick you up at the front door there as well. So it makes it really convenient for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's what I was looking at too. Is that, I do have a little small walker. I don't have a real big one or anything, but I can get around pretty good. If I have to go a distance. But here, I've got a little cane, and I can get in here and then get on the plane, and then from there it's a very manageable trip, and that's what I'm looking for. I don't know, that's what I'm hoping that as we do this, and people who have issues or disabilities, that they see it's not hard to get out and do something, and that's what we're hoping to do. And I know that I'm gonna have to kind of close it out here, but I thought we might give a little bit of a shout out to Stan Little. I think he might be watching this at some point, and I think he's always been a good friend of everybody here and good friend of Harrison, and I know you've seen it up front and close. But you got anything you'd like to say to Stan at this point?
The one thing I do want to say to Stan first is go Hogs.
Yeah.
Stan's been tremendous. Of course, Stan's the president of the airlines and owns it, and he's a great community.
nothing better than being awakened by a thunderstorm in the dry time of mid-July, unless you're getting ready for your family to board a flight to go to Dallas on our way to looking for our happy place in Phoenix, Arizona. So stay tuned. See how the adventure continues. A lot of excitement, a lot of rain, a lot of sunny days, and see how it ends. Thanks. One of the nice things at a small airport, I had met Stan Little. He's the chairman and chief executive officer for Southern Airways. And so, I sent him a video clip of my interview with the airport manager, and he said, "Great interview. I feel like I know a movie star, Judy, and safe travels and have a great flight, Herb. All of us at Southern appreciate your support and your business." So that's the thing with best. Okay, getting ready to board. Nice that FedEx has sent their private plane to take us on to Phoenix since we had a rain delay. Okay, all right, second thought, looks like we're going to be boarding the Southern Skyways aircraft to Dallas, but it'll all be good. The airport handling of individuals with disabilities deserves nothing but the highest grade, an A+, if you will. They truly mastered the art of whisking you away from check-in all the way to boarding, ensuring a smooth journey with a wheelchair when necessary. They share a little personal tidbit on this. As someone who's slogged 1 million miles on not one but two airlines, American and United, I can honestly say I've never encountered a more seamless connection. You see, we were bombarded with suggestions left and right, but the airport experience proved to be an absolute breeze. And here's a little nugget of wisdom for you. When it comes to airports, it's not about showing off your toughness. No. Just opt for the wheelchair, my friends. It expedites the process and makes the entire flying experience more enjoyable for both you and your fellow passengers. Speaking of visuals, there's a video of me engaging in a little drag race while my daughter expertly handles the luggage. Remember, folks, always have wheels at your disposal. It's a key to a smoother journey, no doubt about it. So after securing her luggage, there were just 2 pieces of luggage, so we caught a lift. It turned out to be a breeze compared to having to chase down the Waymo, the driverless car. I had hoped to take it to the Airbnb, but it would not have taken us basically directly to the door. Might left us a block or so away, and so we stumbled on that revelation later. But we were glad that we weren't burdened by luggage when that happened. You see, even short walks became impractical when temperatures soar above 110 degrees. We live close to a lot of things, but still, it was smart to take a lift to those areas and go door to door. Even in the mall next to us, or just a little ways off, we normally took that so we could get to a certain location and then return that way. But 3 riding and not more than a $7 fee was probably well worth it. And we didn't rent a car; we just went with the Lyft. Some people would have chosen Uber, but my choice is Lyft over some success I've had with it in the past in Orlando and other places I travel. When some airlines have started charging for carry-ons, now remember that with disabilities, you're entitled to bring along one trusty carry-on at no cost. That obviously for your medicine and other things that you might have, and you need to know those rights. And we played by the rules and paid for our check baggage, just keeping the score straight. The adventures that unfold when traveling, never a dull moment. Okay, we had mixed experiences with Frontier. It's great that they offered low fares and adhered to a schedule, but it's unfortunate that that we incurred issues with customer service, luggage, additional charges. It's commendable that Discover Card provided assistance in resolving those charges.
And so you're going to see a lot of humility from me. I wouldn't want to, there's not going to. But I failed to, did I mention my Ironman? Well, there's a lot of things to be said about somebody who's an Ironman, about the persistence of being able to go from here to Little Rock, 140 miles, and you be, running a marathon and swimming all the rivers and then bicycling part of the way. So, you can do that, then you've got a lot of fortitude. Unfortunately, this is not my cup. My son has run multiple Ironman as well as marathons. So I can't take credit for that, but I'll take credit for anything I can, as you probably guessed at this point. So I apologize for running long, and maybe I can edit it down, but maybe not.
Keith is saying in the Grinch That Stole Christmas, and how people did overcome the Grinch. And that's a little bit, if you want to look at the moral of the story, if you say, of creating a video like this about travel, as to what the consequences and responsibilities are. I know that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between people that are looking out for your good and they just don't want to take the time or effort. And then there's issues that you may be concerned about and they may be concerned about that are not really issues that you've already done research on. So that's part of the story. And you can talk about the Grinch that stole your vacation, or your Grinch that stole your trip to the mall, or trip to visit a friend. There's a lot of Grinches out there, and we're trying to figure out ways to deal with that. And I think you'll see that as we talk about various things that happen on the trip and getting going, that you'll find that in airlines, or you'll find that in your credit card or debit card, or just places that you stay, and how you determine where to stay and what rides to take, whether it's having a rental car or whether you go to an Uber, or out in Phoenix, you might want to take a Waymo. But there's a lot of things that's intertwined. It's not only just about that, but also what the alternatives are with artificial intelligence. So it does have a little more than just a shallow representation of just making a trip.
The condo here, you can see we have a pool inside. Well, it is a pool table, not a pool. But we do have a pool outside. I'm not sure when we use that, maybe early in the morning to late at night. And then we call
Okay, here's the front door, so it's very accessible.
Nice, ambiance as far as what we can do. And you'll see that as you go around here, we're really close to the Scottsdale Fashion Center, or whatever, the mall or whatever. So we have a lot of things going on here, so it's a good time to be here to do some things.
The back door leads right outside to the pools.
One of the things I found out by just having access to a pool was the fact that I could walk at a very fast pace without the fear of falling. So when I returned, I did talk to my neurologist, and we set up some physical therapy.
And I'll build a house where you feel safe, and if you call my name, then I'll be there. looking out for a better day. When it seems like there's no escape.
Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, every single day. Every single day, every single day. Every single day, every single day. Everybody sour like a lemon tree. I'm just smiling down upon my enemies. Do the shit I love it on a daily. You say you hate your job, but you'll never leave, never leave. But that ain't gonna be me, that ain't gonna be me. My brother called me up, said he saw me on TV. I said it was. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, every single day.
Well, on part 3, I sure don't want to mess up my product placement. I've got a Nike cap, Just Do It, and then I got a Under Armour shirt there. It's a Bass Pro. When I was a marshal at a golf event, a PGA golf event, and then the Old Reliable, I've got a drink from Sonic. So we want to make sure they all get, as far as, you know, being noted as being in this this video. So in part 3, thing that's different here is that we start talking more and focusing on you know, the intent of finding your you know, your happy place, and as told by a family with disabilities and friends. As you see, it's expanded from just a few people to many more. So I wanted to make sure we covered that, but we wanted to get the genesis, and of course starts there with the joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus of our lives. As far as our boxing group, you'll see Helen McAllister, who actually wrote a writing children's book, and that'll kind of come into play as we talk about children's book. Like I kind of featured the one about, you know, the Grinch stealing Christmas. Well, she's written a lot of books that are really kind of tied into to being nice to people, and also having your children being aware of how to handle people or kids with disabilities, and she focuses some on the other issues that come along as far as health issues, and so it's a little broader as we kind of get into this. But all right, Helen, when we were going to Little Rock, the thing I remember that I think was crocheting or knitting, which is, I don't know the difference. So what were you doing? You were doing something there. What do you like to do?
Oh, I like arts and crafts. I like to paint and crochet. And
crochet is what I was thinking about there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you commented on the fact that you had been on the board, Children's Hospital Board in Little Rock for 6 years, I believe, and then you've been active in a lot in local charities. I know our group here went over and did the drum fight. It was kind of interesting because there was 2 men in the group at a women's organization, and I kind of laughed about that. But we had a lot of fun with it, and the people there treated us very well. And I thought it's kind of unusual, but a very exciting time. But you know, when you're down here, I had you kind of be active in all the things we did. But I also found that your husband had been a club pro PGA, and your son currently is a club pro in PGA. And of course, during that time, the PGA had a club pro that had a hole-in-one, and there's a lot of news about that. But really what I wanted to mighty mention here today is your children's book. You've written a children's book, and tell us a little bit about what your most recent children's book is about.
The one I'm working on now is about Parkinson's disease, and it's for children, and it tells about Parkinson's, and it talks about rock steady boxing and how that helps with the Parkinson's. And it really talks about how to treat people with Parkinson's or disabilities. That the moral of the story is that you need to be a friend and to listen and to be there for them.
Yeah, one thing I thought was important is that your history, I didn't mention there, as a second grade teacher, and you were up in Maine and also in Florida, I believe, and the years you put in there, and I think that's a different perspective too, as being a teacher and dealing with children of all backgrounds.
Yes, and I taught in Arkansas for a while too.
Okay, well that's a good background. So I wanted to bring that out. How long have you had Parkinson's?
Well, I think I've had it. I was diagnosed in 2017, but I've had tremors since about 2007.
And as far as limiting, what has it done for you?
When I was teaching, my handwriting got terrible, and that's not good for a second grade teacher. And mostly my balance has been affected.
Well, I just wanted to get a brief introduction here because we'll do a more thorough one later, but I think it's great to hear your background and what you've done and what you're currently doing. So thanks a lot for the interview.
Be kind to everyone. Be kind to everyone.
Well, I want to get everybody's opinion on learning to treat people nice. What are some things you would probably think about as far as treating people nice, Chris?
Well, what you want to do is when they're talking, you ask them their opinion on something. That gives them a chance to express themselves.
And you go along with and agree with them, and is that how you learn to treat people well, or do you like to?
No, he's not two-faced.
He's not two-faced.
It's just nice to let people have an opportunity to talk and tell about themselves, because that's what's important to them. And you get to learn about them.
You learned about that when you were in your job and at Alltel, and you learned how to be an executive by treating everybody really nice and not stepping over on anybody. Or you always treat them nice. Is that right?
Try to.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Even the ones that paid their bills late,
Okay.
treat them nice.
All right, Ralph. What's your thoughts on learning to treat people nice or treat them well?
Well, I think the main thing you do is you don't talk with your mouth full.
Okay.
That really helps things.
All right. Okay. Well, and what else do you try to listen and be nice to them, and you make good compliments about them and what they've done, or how do you handle those people?
You be nice to them except to the asshole.
Yo, VIP. Let's kick it. Ice, ice, baby.
Okay, well, we got to have that one distractor.
Is that in the book?
every time I've interviewed anybody, I want to find that one person I guess the breakfast clubs are kind of the predecessor of social media, getting out and saying nice things about people and everything. And Bill, what do you think about?
Just try to help people whenever I can.
I know you probably a pretty ideal model, a perfect model on that.
No, I don't know about that.
But you've done good. You try to find people or help them and kind of help them with whatever they need, and you've been reasonable about that whenever that happens.
Yeah, and don't prejudge them.
Yeah, that's an important thing.
Things you've heard and all that. Go by what they are.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? I know you've had your opportunities to deal with people. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you got to get to know them.
Okay.
So you got to ask questions, and you got to let them know about you, and you got to get to know them.
So you got to listen, and you got to just kind of not be in and start telling people before you listen, and I think that's real important. And
And what happens when you drive into a parking lot, Ron, and you park near this white Toyota, and you don't make the turn very sharp, and you kind of put a whack in the side of that car, and then you get out and then you put another whack into it. What do you do with people like that, or how do you treat people like that?
Oh, go get another car and let them hit it.
Well, that's good.
It says you're supposed to treat people like you want to be treated, so I'd say that's probably relevant.
Well, that's
answer
good
to that.
because I just got out of the car over there in the parking lot, and I got the license number in the car, and it's a white Toyota. So I really want to know what people.
I'll report that to my boss and let her handle that from there.
Okay.
She's an attorney,
Our good friends out there, and what did you think about how they helped us get around as far as Sid and Sharon?
It was unbelievable because I couldn't have done it myself.
Yeah, and they just been over, and I know they're not in the best of health as far as Sharon. And Sid, he's just kind of the same old Sid. He never slows down, and he's a lot of fun, and he's just always thinking of something different to see and do, and so.
Sometimes, but at the bottom line, hey, life is good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here with Sid, and we're going to talk about some of our trips to South America and some of the things that we've done with our jobs, and also some of the things that we've developed with our families. And I thought maybe one of the things from a family standpoint came about a few years ago when we were in Costa Rica, and you'd rent a car, and we was kind of going the back roads. We, of course, going down there because of some opportunities with their cable TV software, and you knew the people there, and so it wasn't strange to us, and you had a lot of history of doing work down there. So I thought it was interesting that we came across this village over in Costa Rica, and there was a lot of kids out there playing, and we started having a discussion as, can they be happy there or be as happy there as our kids are in the States? And I thought you had a lot of things that you thought about and you asked, and I thought maybe
you said something to me that I've often thought about. We're driving kind of through a little jungle area, a little road. We come into an open area, a little village.
And we did have these buzzards flying over us.
And as we were going down the little road, the little narrow road, there's a little power line here. There were a couple of buzzards flying. They'd fly ahead of us, and when we get up there, they kept going to the next one. Kind of like they were waiting for us to die or something. We weren't sure. But anyway, we came upon this village, and there's a bunch of little kids playing. And if I recall correctly, you had a grandson that was born fairly...
Well, it's the daughter.
It's
the daughter, yeah.
And I asked Herb, I said, Herb, how come your grandson was born in the circumstances in which he was born? And then you got these little kids out here that just out here in this village running around. And you said something to me, you said, yeah, but look at them. Look how happy they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, what is happiness? Is it having lots of things? Is it just being happy with your friends and that? So it kind of gave me a little pause to think a little bit. And some of my church activity, when I had to give a talk or give a lesson or something, I used that example several times. And it was very interesting. Costa Rica is a beautiful country. Beautiful country. We did a lot of work there, Herb and I, and cable television. We visited that cable television company owned by a guy, if I recall correctly, it doesn't matter, his name was Betancourt. But it was a beautiful little country. I was hoping we could find something there.
I know when we had that discussion I know we had a few emails, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we kind of reflected on that, and I think that was the thing with even with my daughter that I commented on. I said, well, she's looked at her circumstances with knees replaced and also kidney transplant, and even those circumstances, she's been a person very happy and deals with people on that level. So that was another thing that that kind of developed, and that was one of the things I wanted to do with some of the things I'm doing now is to talk about people's happy place and coming to Phoenix in the middle of summer and hot.
Where is happiness? Where is happiness?
Yeah.
How do you find happiness? In today's world, that's a very difficult thing. A lot of people are running around making a lot of money, but they're not really happy.
Yeah.
And those little kids in that village down in Costa Rica were very happy. And their parents were happy. Parents were visiting each other. They do a little fishing. They have a little restaurant there. I think we stopped there and had a fried fish there. If I'm not mistaken. I can't remember. But I think we had some fried fish there.
Yeah.
They're all happy. Very happy.
Yeah.
So that
very
begs the question.
Yeah. And
what is happening?
That's really what we're looking for here. We got, I guess, as we get older and become senior citizens, as they say, but also people with disabilities. We work a lot of people, or I do, in some of the things with Parkinson's. So I was trying to kind of reflect on that because that's kind of important. And what I'm trying to develop here is to think about that a little bit and also talk a little bit about our travels, which I think there were some fun things, but also some things we reflected on how lucky we are and some of the things that people are dealing with in these other countries. So
Herb and I traveled together doing business and exploring. We did a lot of exploring. From the grasslands of Uruguay to the fishing waters of the Amazon up by Manaus and out that area to the coastlines of Peru down to Arequipa by remember that big volcano there? It's called Misti.
Yeah.
And Arequipa was a white city, they called it. Remember that? I don't know what kind of stone it was, but it was a white, sort of like marble or something.
I think it was white, and then it's
white, yeah.
You could go around and you hear the music of the Andes, which is, you can't beat that.
Yeah, that music of the Andes.
Yeah.
That music of the Andes, to me, stirs my soul like no other music.
Yeah.
Something about that, kid. We've been all over down there, and I've traveled all over Bolivia and Peru and those big giant mountains and the dropping down into rivers like the Urubamba River.
Yeah.
That music, it just pours over the hills and around. And it's a magic music. It is.
Well, I think we'll wrap this section up, but we want to talk about some of the other areas as we go on here. So we'll be getting back on that. So
So I tried to to kind of lead this into the introduction of Bryce Mulder, and you'll see Bryce coming into the picture here, and we had an interview that didn't necessarily go all the way right, but it got enough of the subject and how it was kind of developed and what we were saying, and I really wanted to get Chrissy's opinion of that, and so you'll see that toward the end, and I think that's kind of an important thing too, is to get her thoughts on that, and as you go on through there, you'll see that we just kind of cover that, and then we start talking to some other people in our group, and one of those is Ruth, who's a nurse that was on some of the boats there, the hospital boats, and so we got a pretty good range of things that we're going to be discussing there with her and others. Okay, the next part, we're going to start with an interview with Bryce Mulder, and we did that at his office. I had hoped to do this at the TPC Scottsdale Golf Course, but again, when you reduce your production costs, you do what you have to do to make it a success. So we did it at his office, and for whatever reason, maybe I didn't get the wireless mics charged up full. Some of them, the interview was curtailed, but I think you get an idea of his happiness, and obviously I wanted to press him on the fact that he was born in Harrison and what his connections were to Harrison at this stage, but just a friendly banter on that. And then from there, you'll see that we kind of talked about basically having a birth defect, a syndrome, and this effect of Poland syndrome, and then kind of use this to go into hospitals and nurses, and we have, of course, a retired Navy nurse that was on the hospital boats, and of the Navy. So there's a lot of discussion on that, and then a lot of discussions on people who have used their talents in overcoming differences. And we'll talk with Sidney Moncrief and what he's doing now and becoming one. It has to do with people, different ethnic backgrounds and different other social backgrounds, and putting those together and showing leadership. So you'll see some of that, and then you'll see some of the things with Brandon Burlsworth and Marty talking about the differences there, being a walk-on and later on being an All-American, and what you have to do in overcoming those kind of differences and dealing with people. So I wanted to broaden the subject of talking about people with differences, not just to be people with physical differences of disabilities, but other differences, because I think it's a broader topic, but still has a lot of common ground, that if you accept some people with differences, then you've got a mentality that you can accept people with disabilities a lot easier than just grouping up with your own people. So that's the nature of this next section.
The story is inspiring. You see, Bryce Mulder was born with not one but two physical challenges, but through hard work, determination, and immense talent, Bryce Mulder is realizing his dreams here on the PGA Tour.
We are the luckiest people, on earth to be able to play golf for a living.
Bryce Mulder has been taking his cuts on the PGA Tour for 8 years now, and the Scottsdale resident still relishes every moment of playing in his own backyard.
The fact that I live here and I have some, a lot of friends that are able to come out and watch, so it's cool to be able to play in my backyard, and it's a great experience.
Mulder's career has been sure and steady. Playing collegiately at Georgia Tech, he is one of just four-time first-team All-Americans, a short list that includes Phil Mickelson and David Duval.
Yeah, I came out of college as one of the can't miss, in quotations, guys, and for a little while I missed. I think I had a buddy caddying for me one year. I think I paid him more than I got paid, but it makes me appreciate what I have now.
But just playing on the PGA Tour, some might say, was a swing against the odds. Mulder was born without a left pectoral muscle and a rare disease known as Poland syndrome, which left his left hand smaller than his right hand and 3 of his fingers webbed, requiring 2 surgeries before the age of 5.
I remember the worst part was playing basketball or soccer and playing shirts and skins when you're 8 years old. I don't want to take my shirt off, or at the pool. Like that to me was probably the biggest drawback that I've ever had from it. I was born that way. Fortunately, I've got a mild case. I didn't know anything different. If you'd asked me when I was 7, I would have said I'm going to be playing golf on the PGA Tour. Well, I was 7. I didn't know any better, because there were a million 7-year-olds probably saying that. But the fact that I'm actually doing it is really cool.
Mashed potatoes! Oh, this is a beauty. Didn't get any more than 20 feet off the ground.
There's the stinger. What was that, Chair? Did somebody scream mashed potatoes? That was mashed.
All right. Well, it's good to be here with Bryce Mulder. I didn't realize, I knew it all along that you were born in Harrison. Have you ever been back to Harrison, or is that just kind of place you were born in?
It's been a little while. You know, when I was living there, still playing, some golf in the state, certainly made it through there. And I know we'd always go back home and visit some family, some friends that my parents still had at the time, but there in Harrison. But it's been a little while.
When's the last time you were there?
It would have been at some point in college. I knew we went through there. Maybe after college, I played in some tournaments up in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
So I played in some. Would have been Corn Ferry now, but whatever it's called back then.
That golf course up in Springfield, that was kind of an interesting course. I mean, it was a nice course.
It was.
I enjoyed going up there and watching them because you could see. I don't know. A lot of those people didn't have any sponsors. I guess it was really tough. You could tell that they were hustling for the deal. I worked a little bit with Kiwanis and rodeo people coming through, and it's kind of the same atmosphere. They really were hard at it. But I know you were in Conway. Now you went to high school at Conway, or?
I did junior high and high school.
Okay, junior high and high school. Now you, I guess, did you ever have to come to Harrison when you played in high school, or was that just at any time? I just kind of making that connection if there was one.
We did. There were junior tournaments in the summer, and then I know there was always. I think Harrison hosted a tournament in high school, and I know we played at least twice.
Yeah.
So we went up there and played a little bit. I know my dad and I went up to play in a parent junior event a couple times. I remember that. So so I remember being up there some. It's been a little while, but I remember getting up there.
Well, I see. I think you could be my father's son. You could probably play. My son's a little older than you, so we have played some of those, and we actually did okay. But my son, he just doesn't. He doesn't play golf now much. He's done some triathlons and all kinds of stuff. But after that, I know you went to Georgia Tech. Were you considering any other places when you?
I was considering Arkansas, just being such a big Arkansas fan, still am.
Okay.
And so I considered Arkansas and then Oklahoma State. Those were schools that were recruiting me. And it's also important, it's important that you know some of the players that are playing there or that are gonna, that are coming in with you or right before you. And so, but it just kind of seemed like the right fit to get not out of the state to get out of the state, but more of just to mature, to kind of learn to be on my own a little bit. Atlanta is a big city. I remember when I was going, there was, looking at the statistics and knowing that there's more people in Metro Atlanta than the state of Arkansas. And why that was important to me was I did have goals of playing around the country, around the world as a professional, and I thought, what, I need to learn how to be in a big city sometime.
Yeah, well, that's
and it helped too that the academics were important to me.
Right.
So that was a great experience, and then I also knew the coach was great, and a couple of players that signed right before me the year before and coming in with me. So all of those matched up just right.
Well, I hear a lot of stories of Ian Kuchar. I guess he's a character. I guess
that's right.
I know I hear a lot about his. I guess things that he's pulled and different things. And I know you're always going back and forth, and he always has a smile on his face. I don't know. His personality just kind of came across, and a lot of people really started following him. And I know that how much difference in age were you?
Just a year. So he was one of the ones that signed to play there a year before me, and so we played a decent bit of junior, not a lot of junior golf together, but some.
Yeah.
Certainly saw him and knew him from tournaments, and so those are things that helps. When you're deciding
you got friends like that.
That's who you're. It's your own little tiny fraternity, and so it's important who's on that team. And he and I clicked well. We had different personalities in some respects, but in others not so much. We like to give each other a lot of grief. We're okay taking it. So it was,
yeah, because it doesn't matter. It's just that I'm just using that for the
just for the prop. Yeah.
At least that's better.
Can we all fit in there?
Yes. We can both fit in there. I can squeeze in there.
Everybody. Does that work at all?
Yep, it works.
Does
it
it?
works fine.
I'm gonna stop there.
Mashed potatoes! Oh, this is a beauty. Didn't get any more than 20 feet off the ground.
There's the stinger. What was that, Chair? Did somebody scream mashed potatoes? That was mashed.
So, Christy, what did you think about going to see Bryce Molder yesterday? What was your impression of the visit that we had?
He was a neat person.
And what did you think about some of the things that he said? He was born in Harrison, but he hasn't been back recently, right?
Yes.
And what do you think about his daughter? He's got an 8-year-old daughter. What did you remember about that?
That she's doing what she wants to do, and he's doing what he wants to do.
But what does she like to play?
Volleyball.
Volleyball.
And so he's been helping her with volleyball.
And he said that he wasn't the coach, he was the assistant coach.
Yeah.
So he probably has to learn more about it, but he likes to do that.
Yeah.
And he talked about that, and he talked about
everybody can do their own thing with their own
talent.
Yeah.
And he had a Poland syndrome. Mm-hmm. And what did you know about that? What do you see about that?
His one arm is shorter than the other arm.
And what about his left hand?
And a few spinners are shorter. Small.
Okay. So you could kind of compare that with some of the things you've had. And you said you knew people in Harrison that had that, or had,
Yes.
and they've been doing okay with it, or they have physical therapy and some things.
Yes.
So that was
they're a assistant at a physical therapy in Harrison.
Okay. And so people have done well, and that was kind of encouraging to hear that he had gone to the level of being a professional golfer and done well in professional golfing, and he kind of got to the point where he was sort of burnt out, and he decided to just to be home with his kids and do something he loved doing, a type of work. Wasn't that interesting to hear about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you? I think you asked him a question about the Masters. I thought that was kind of funny, or maybe strange. What was the question you asked?
I asked him if he played the Masters.
And what did he say?
He said no.
Well, yeah, he said it. He didn't ever play in the Masters. I didn't know that, and I guess that was interesting to find out. As much as he had won, I think over 11 million as a golfer, and never got into the Masters. But I thought that was kind of interesting, and I think a lot of the things he said, and the fact that he goes to Flagstaff up there for some of the summer months, and they kind of enjoy that, getting away from the heat down here. But he comes down and works about 3 days a week, and he's a partner in a firm, and they had nice offices, and you got to sit in on our questions. And did anything else that kind of come out of that you enjoyed, or just
meeting him?
He was just a neat guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he really came across as what he doing for his family, and how he's doing things, and just a good family guy, and he talked about all the pressure of when he was a golfer, and he got to a point where he couldn't feel like he could improve, so he decided to be home with the family then, didn't he?
Yes.
Well, I just want to get a little of your thoughts on the meeting yesterday. Thanks.
Well, I think you're going to find as being the producer, director, and many other things, I did get a lot of help from Christy, and but there are times that I know I faced some issues, and one of the biggest issues I had was with Bryce. I know that it was somewhat difficult scheduling the meeting, and then when we did get it scheduled, I had some difficulty with my wireless mics. I could have done it differently if I'd known what I know now. But one of the things I wanted to kind of make aware of as far as the meeting, because it's kind of entrenched in my memory and Christie's, but some of the things he did talk about, and this is being a 4-year first team All-American golfer at Georgia Tech and a can't miss PGA Pro. Well, he did. How averaging 280 yards off the tee was good enough, along with a great short game in college, but not in the pros. He answered never say never about the Champion Tour, but at this time he won't play in it. And that was kind of a question we asked too. He said his daughter will be in her teens, another reason. How decisions to retire came much easier than he thought thought it would be. I got a recording of that with another interview he did, so kind of confirms that. Bryce?
I packed up my bag, went back to the house, had a good cry, called my wife, I called some other people. Next morning withdrew and went home. And that was it. And the funny thing is, like, running into Suzanne Barnes in the airport on like a Tuesday morning in Reno, headed to Phoenix, and she's like, are you hurt? And I'm like, no. She's like, I'm like, I'm just going home. I'm done. And she was kind of like, all right, good for you. So then so that was it. I knew that it was over. There was I literally remember packing my bag, putting the clubs in the bag, and as I'm walking off, I was kind of like, wow, no, this feels right.
Never played with Tiger and never played in the Masters. I think we've discovered about the Masters, but he didn't play with Tiger either. He did play with John Daly and he enjoyed it. He liked John's pace of play. I wasn't sure how that would fit with his game, but he seemed to like that. And so the interview with the former PGA golfer and what it took to overcome birth defects, Toe from Scottsdale, is a very rewarding for me and for Christy. We appreciate very much for Bryce taking the time to do that. I know that he has a lot of commitments and a lot of commitments that he gets paid for. So to do that and work around some of the schedules he had with his office here was a lot more than maybe it seems on the surface. But we do much appreciate that. And if we have a need at some point, the only thing we didn't get was all the interview on camera. So we may have to do that via Zoom sometime, but we're not going to bug him at this point. But we'll try to do something to follow up at some point. I had a very intriguing interview with Ruth. I know you'll catch part of that. She's a retired Navy nurse, but I guess I never had come across anybody that served on both the hospital ships, USS Comfort and Mercy. And I thought it was pretty fascinating to hear the stories there. I was kind of suggesting that, that she ought to compare her stories with the MASH stories with Alan Alda, who's been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so I kind of brought that up, and it was kind of a little clip I had. But I really enjoyed that. I mean, I think you'll find that it's pretty intriguing as to what they do off hours and how it varies with people. And maybe when everybody here was keeping up with the Gulf War and all the things on satellite, that she was spending time reading books and getting updates through their communication. So I was pretty intrigued with the way she answered a lot of those questions, and she's a very interesting person. Again, she's in her Rocksteady Boxing, and her son is a pilot for FedEx. Maybe we can figure out a way to get her to meet Alan Alda in New York, or maybe fly out to California through the old MASH setting. I think that would be a real fascinating opportunity, and I think it would make sense, particularly with getting Parkinson people involved. So that's one of the things I thought was. Okay, I've got Ruth here. She's a retired U.S. Navy nurse, and that sounds really important, but it's really got a lot of things that she's done in her background. It really kind of surprised me when I got to talking to her here in our boxing, and I thought I'd do a real brief interview with her here just to introduce her. But Ruth, as a retired nurse, you were on the two hospital ships, and on those you did work in the operating room. Tell us what the name of those ships are, because some people might not be familiar, but they're just two as far as I know.
The first one that I was on was the Mercy, the USNS Mercy. And I did work in the operating room, and we did a few surgeries while we waited for Desert Storm to get going. And so we had a lot of downtime. We had a lot of surgeons looking for surgery to do. It was 1991.
Okay.
And the year was the war. It wasn't a full-fledged war. It was a ground war, I guess.
Okay. That was like the Desert Storm. It was when they were
before Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Desert Shield. Okay, yeah. Well, that was kind of an interesting time there, because I'm sure you didn't know exactly what to expect, and that.
Oh no, not at all.
Not at all. And then when there was action going on there, how did that happen? How did people come to the ship, or were they treated and operated?
My group, TWA flew into Bahrain. And we had a small boats brought us to the ship, boatloads.
So you're out from Bahrain in that area there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to Kuwait City. I don't. Did you ever get to Kuwait City or any? Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I was doing some business cable TV, and satellite TV, but I know a little bit about the culture over there, and it's pretty difficult. The people. I mean, as far as what they allow you to do and not allow you to do, but.
as far as you were,
We were on the ship and didn't
didn't have to worry about that. You
didn't-
pretty well
yeah.
had all your food and all your
Yes.
entertainment. What did you do for entertainment when you're on that ship like that? I mean, what do you do to keep your mind?
Well, I read a lot,
You read a lot.
but
Did-
there were activities.
Okay.
You know, there were exercise classes. The because I'm so much older than most. I was 44 when I went into the military, so
Okay.
I was quite a bit older than my cohorts. So I didn't fit in too good that way because of my age, but I really got younger because I tried keeping up with them. So
Yeah.
personally, it was a blessing for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't know. You know, I've been out about as much as I've been out is on a platform on a helicopter down in the Gulf, and they had a lot of good food, and they had a lot of TV and video and recordings. I don't know, did they have like TV, or did you ever? You know, I mean, I guess the news things with satellites, you probably had.
Yeah, I would imagine. And I don't remember specifically because I'm not a TV watcher anyway.
Yeah, equipment you used. Did you feel like it was kind of world class or best, or just something that's pretty much standard in any situation, or how did you see it as different? I guess.
Well, we had what we needed.
Just what you needed.
Yeah, we had what we needed.
Yeah.
So, and if we needed something more, then it goes on a list, and eventually you'll get it.
Yeah. Then would they be people come in and they'd be diagnosed or treated and they'd be flown out or taken out? And,
They could do that. If we had definitely had enough surgeons and nursing staff to be able to do several rooms at a time.
okay.
But we didn't need to, luckily.
Yeah. So that was. And as far as any activity that was around close, you didn't have any worries. I mean, it's well identified. The ship is it is a hospital ship. but
Right.
it-
We stay certain different. Then we had the two hospital ships in the Gulf at the same time. So when the war started, the actual war started, the other ship called the Comfort, it went up into the closer area, and the Mercy, which I was on, stayed back.
Okay.
And I think the plan was if there were enough problems with that, we could switch around so that the larger ship, the empty ship, would be closer to the action.
So as far as the two ships, were they identified as doing one thing and the other doing something else, or
No.
do both of them do about the same
Same
thing?
mission.
Same thing, same mission. Okay. Well, that's why I was wondering when you said one close or not close, but that
Well, evidently, this is my geography lesson, I guess. There's a bay of Tonkin, I think it is, and then there's
Tonkin,
another area just before you go into that bay.
yeah.
So we stayed back in that other area while the Comfort went forward into that Gulf area.
So keeping up with what was going on in the war, how did that information get back to you? I mean, obviously you're reading books, but there's what
Yeah,
was there somebody that kind of an information officer that come around and say, this is what's happening, or
they would have meetings such as that, different groups meeting for the information they needed. I don't remember specifically any instances that we did anything like that. We had meetings in the OR before that pertained to the OR.
Okay, that's
And,
good.
Even though we didn't have a busy schedule, we made a busy schedule so that we wouldn't lose the ability to do that. So we had a lot of in-services and a lot of teaching.
So
Also, I have a problem with my voice.
Okay.
With talking, and I always have been soft voiced, but now it's more pronounced. So
Yeah.
I'm starting speech therapy, and so I have to speak with intent, speak louder.
Yeah.
You know, enunciate better.
Yeah.
So-
Get that old Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Now, how do you?
Basically, I think with Parkinson's, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, pretty hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So the prevention is worth doing anything to continue with what you need. So
Well, I think that's some of the things that we're trying to do is to go and do and not sit and let things kind of take over, because
yeah.
anytime you stay home or you don't do something, that it gets a lot worse. So appreciate your time.
You got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. Yeah, you got a friend in me. You got trouble, and I got them too. There is an end.
I coached basketball at one time, and that was somewhat rewarding. More so in college, 1 year than in the NBA. I coached in the D-League. That was rewarding because the players were somewhat open and dependent upon the head coach to some extent. Building people is what we do now. We design and deliver professional development in leadership, team enhancement, diversity and inclusion, workplace readiness, entrepreneurship. I get such a big kick out of just doing any type of professional development session, knowing that you're giving adults and students valuable soft skills that they're going to need to be successful in life. And when you talk about diversity and inclusion, that's just not ethnicity, of course. That's gender, religion, all types of skill, all types of different ways we are different than one another. That gives me even more satisfaction because I can help people understand the value of being as one at some point. And that makes my day. I love to do that. We have a workshop tomorrow in Star City for their staff school district. And I'm looking forward to talking to them about team enhancement and better ways to engage your students in the classroom. It's a lot of fun, and we love doing it.
Well, I know that you've been doing that all over Arkansas. Where else do you do this other than Arkansas? Is it?
I've done it in California. I've done it mostly in Texas, but more Arkansas is my biggest base. I've done it in Milwaukee or Wisconsin also. Mostly Arkansas and then Wisconsin and Texas.
So your base right now is Little Rock, or where do you operate out of?
Our base is Little Rock and Dallas.
Okay.
Between the two cities.
Well, I know that.
And that contrast between a big city and a smaller city.
Well, that.
Hey man, who's that cat coming down the street?
I don't know, but it sounds to me like that's just the man with the bone.
Sure having himself a ball.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore.
You know, everybody's got an attachment to a walk-on or somebody that's a marginal player, and they see all this happening, and that was kind of the thing that kind of was pretty amazing. I know that, you know, you can't really teach speed sometimes. I mean, I know that Brandon had some weight issues and other things, but man, when he got to the pro or the whatever they call it, the tryouts or
combine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was
blew him away.
He was top. He blew. Yeah, he's top.
Blew him away. Yeah, we were in the.
Were you there? Or
yeah. See, I actually got in it. I don't know how many agents contact us, and I interviewed him all because that's what we did. He said, "You talk to him, okay? You know, I'll be on the football field." Yeah. So okay. I got NFL certified over a year's time, and was an NFL certified agent. So I was the legal licensed agent. So I was his representative. Right. It turns out we decided to do that, but I was in the lobby of the hotel with him and picked him up from the combine in Indianapolis, and people are saying, "Hey, good job, congratulations." I didn't say that to him. We're walking out. Yeah. I knew he'd ran the 40.
Yeah.
Then we're walking across the brick patio out in Indy there downtown. I said, "What'd you run?" 4.88. I said, "Awesome." Well, I said, "We won't run again when we get back to Arkansas." Yeah. 4.88. No wonder he just blew that. I mean, that was a record for years.
Yeah, it said top to all linemen over that.
It just blew him away.
And they talked about weight bench press and just the whole thing there. I had, you know, that was the thing, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit after watching the movie, and you didn't get the idea how fast he was, and again, that's a little bit of the condition.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore.
I never have been in this place. And boy, I got to looking around the pictures and everything here. And I know a lot about the history of this, but I'm just pretty amazed because it's right here in Harrison. And I was, you know, I was thinking back, you know, the things that's happened over the years, and one of the things that I recall, and you know, there's certain days in your life you remember, and one of them was like, you know, when JFK was assassinated, and then 9/11, and coincidentally, I was out in Phoenix when I got an email from my son about, you know, the tragic accident there with Brandon, and boy, you know, that just sticks with you, that where you were and what the time was, and I got to looking back, you know, at where we are today, and I was looking at the you know, his 22 years and 7 months, but he died April 28, 1999. But you know, since then we've had 24 years and 3 months from 99 to today, and just some amazing things have gone on there. And so I thought I'd let you kind of update us on, you know, what happened and how this you know, how this foundation kind of got put together. So it might just give us a little information on that.
Yeah, and I hear that a lot, Herb. You know, I remember right where I was. You know, of course we do, for sure.
Yeah.
Terrible day, and April 28th, 1999. But a lot of folks, a lot of Razorback fans, you know, contacted, and over the years, you know, it still sticks out. But you know, Brandon worked so hard, come up as a walk-on.
Yeah.
You know, finished his career all conference, all American, first team All American.
Oh yeah.
63rd overall pick in the NFL draft.
Amazing.
That's not bad for a guy to start as a walk-on.
Yeah,
You know?
It's just kind of blows me away, you know, when you think about how he started here in Harrison, and then the steps when he got to the college. You know, he wasn't really well received because he's a walk-on. I mean, that's just normal. That's not going to be unusual, but you know, obviously in sports, it's all about building a team. So
that's right. Yeah, and he had a coaching change after his first year, position coach.
Yeah.
So I remember talking to him on the phone. He said, "Well, my coach is gone," and he kind of, sort of won him over.
Yeah.
So now what I did, and I said, "Well, you do it again," and then that ended up being Coach Mike Bender, who was the best thing for him. You know, so Coach Bender came in, was just the perfect fit for Brandon, and so, you know, worked hard all those years, and then you know, had a great college career, would have had a great pro career, and I feel like right now, I mean, just personally, he should be in College Football Hall of Fame. He's been nominated several times. You know, first team All Americans, criteria for that, and I felt like if he would have got to continue playing in the NFL, that, you know, that first ballot thing.
Yeah, well, the College Hall of Fame, it should still be there. I know in that year, later on that year.
Every time I turn on the TV, Peyton Manning is looking right at me. He's even dragged in his
I was at a cable convention, and just coincidentally, you know, I came across the Peyton Manning and his dad there, and Archie, and of course I mentioned I was from Harrison, and that was really you know, it just kind of brought tears because he was just a year or so in there in Indianapolis, and boy, he was really looking forward to that opportunity because he knew, you know, what the talent was there. And and I thought, well, you know, those things as you go along and what you see and what you get the feedback on, it's just really pretty amazing. So I thought, you know, that's just things that I've noticed, and I know you.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I
wore a vintage Arkansas Razorback coat, and when I got over there standing in line, there was this freshman and their family from Texas, and they got to talking to me and just kept talking to me, and I thought, well, what's the deal? And then later on, other people kept, and it was this Razorback coat, and it's been in my closet, and I'm surprised we didn't get rid of it, but I was kind of kidding with Christy that you know, I'd become a chick magnet because and we went out, and you know, all that time we actually sat up there close to the kids there, but it was kind of one of those days with the LSU game where there's a little bit of ice and stuff out there, but we went out to a restaurant later on and still got the attention, and it was all about the coat.
What kind of coat was this?
His lips are dry, our hearts gently pounding. Don't you just know exactly what they're thinking?
You know, I was thinking about Greater in the movie, and I know it's been a while since you finished that. Is there anything that maybe you would have done different, or is it pretty well? You know, I know you had so much time in it when it came out, but how do you feel after you kind of had a few more years to reflect on things? Do you see anything there or think about anything?
Oh, yeah, sometimes. I mean, sometimes. One thing, you know, I would have cut my cameo out. Probably been the first thing I would have done.
I would ask you, do you remember what your cameo was?
Yeah. It's what me talking to me, basically, on the sideline.
Yeah, that was pretty neat. I would never made a little recording of that.
Yeah.
I said, well, I was kind of surprised.
Right. Yeah, they thought it was kind of cute.
Yeah, it was. I think,
then you wait half a day to film it. You know, you go to wardrobe and you get dressed and you got your name on a door and then they do the makeup on you and all this stuff.
I think people will go back now and watch that just to see that cameo.
Right.
So that was that kind of, you know, that was an Alfred Hitchcock. He used to be
that's right.
Or he
You might want to put that lens on the camera before you miss the whole thing. Thank you. A stunning day. You missed the whole thing. Thank you.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore.
Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day, when it seems like there's no escape.
Okay, it was funny, you know, when we were planning our trip out to California that people were concerned, and when it got down to maybe Sandy wasn't going, we'd have to find a friend or a guest to go with Christy, then, you know, how are we going to handle it and all the issues? Well, I think you found as you kind of go through this that we have a lot of good friends that are not necessarily tied to local people, but such as Sid. Well, one of the things you're going to see here is Craig Settles, and we've got to be great friends because of his interest in telehealth, and he's called upon to do a lot of TV interviews, and we've just got because of his thinking about telehealth, and so I wanted to kind of explain this next section and more about artificial intelligence and the importance of artificial intelligence and bringing data into artificial intelligence so that people with telehealth or with some of the disabilities can be identified for their unique, I guess, as far as their uniqueness, because like my daughter has orofacial digital syndrome, that's quite a bit different than some of the other syndromes you have out there. And so we did identify that, you know, Bryce Motor had that Poland syndrome and how that was different, but there were some similarities. And so I wanted to kind of get into that, and you're going to see as we kind of go through some of this that I'm doing a little bit of discussion with Craig. He wanted to do an interview with me because he wanted to see what this docuseries that I had come up with is all about, and so we did an extensive interview, and I've got some of that on YouTube and the whole thing that's called out there. And again, he's got a copy on his Zoom, and those are out there. But I wanted to at least get back to him because I want to talk about his happy place, which I did earlier. But this again is talking about why I think it's important, why he thinks it's important. So we have kind of an agreement there as to why it's necessary to maybe do the series, but also some of the things he's doing. And so he'll talk about that. And then I'm going to do a thing there. It's behind the scenes with Jim Guy Tucker that kind of tells you, you know, what goes on sometimes that you don't see on the video. But we were discussing some things about some things that never made it on the regular video, but about, you know, how he got involved in technology and how he helped technology companies such as mine when I was starting out in Arkansas. So there's some stories about that which are of interest. And as you go through there, I've got a funny video that I did, actually about 25 years ago, and the quality is not bad. It was kind of a thing for a management meeting, and we kind of did it with a little more satire. but it actually shows you the airport and some things and some funny things about handling customers that maybe a little bit wasn't politically correct, but it was a fun video, at least for us to do it. And then we start talking about some things that we run into there as far as into the Scottsdale area. So that's something to look at and think about.
The strongest argument for us being in a simulation, I think, is the following. 40 years ago, we had Pong, 2 rectangles and a dot. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. If you assume...
I think what I was kind of getting down to was, at this point, it was the fact that artificial intelligence and a lot of other things are starting to deal with the data that's gathered, and what's happened is that there's a great amount of data that's being collected, because we know that with people like Epic Systems up in Madison where my grandson works, and we also know that Apple and Apple Watches are collected. So we want to know that information, when people are traveling or they're with disabilities that are not being to be able to have that information right at their hands, and other people, if there's issues. I know I did Smart 911 at times, and having that information available if something comes up is really important. I think what we were getting to there is there are going to be ways, because it's been done in the past with a lot of behavioral marketing or behavioral gathering of data and target marketing. So that was really kind of where I was wanting to get to, is that point. But I think what the other point was, you got to deal with differences of people and not jump to conclusions, and some of that is having that information available and not being
right, because it seems like it can people can make assumptions about the different types of disabilities, right? You have the main disabilities like hard of hearing or hearing impaired, vision impaired, people who can't, have mobility issues, and we sort of have that as our barometer. Well, are you one of those, right? Well, if you're not, they may not be able to, they may not have made allowances for people with those particular type of different types of disabilities. Yeah. So we can't allow either the government or local government to pigeonhole people and say, well, because we have services that cater to these 4 or 5 types of disabilities, that may not be what's now. And so, like when you mentioned the point, I think it was your daughter, I think, that has a disability, but it's not one of the the big 4. It's a different kind of
it's a very special issue. It's oral facial digital syndrome, and most people will confuse it with something else of broader terms, as you mentioned. Well, the only thing else, and again, you're a stroke victim, so you probably see that I know a lot of people have different situations after they have a stroke, and it affects them a lot of different ways. I mean, it's not all the same.
Oh,
so.
definitely.
So you're kind of living that case too.
Get together on different things, and so I thought it would be good. Obviously we're working on this project to work with people with disabilities, but it kind of extends a little more than that, as you can imagine, because we're dealing with people with differences, and I think that was one of the reasons I thought was kind of important with your situation and what you've done in the past, as far as your connections with maybe with John Paul and Harrison. But I think as far as an introduction, we've kind of our paths have crossed many times in a lot of business situations, but
I think, as you know, a lot of times things like this kind of develop into other things as you kind of progress. But I thought, I'd comment a little bit about time when you were governor and we were starting up as a service bureau, and there's a lot of issues about technology and companies that were trying to do things. And one of the things that you were willing to do is take another look at some of the things that the state auditors were looking at, what sales tax covered. And at that point, it was, I think, they were kind of viewing us as a service bureau as being a printing company. And, we got a lot of that straightened out, but that was important for technology companies. And I think, I don't know, what you feel as some of your accomplishments as governor, but I know from technology business, it was important that you stepped in at that point and kind of took an interest in it, because that was real important, because there's a lot of competition for technology companies, and things have developed over the years, but that was kind of the early stages. So I just thought you might want to comment on some of your accomplishments as governor, but some of the things I saw was that, and so I was kind of curious what your thinking was along those lines. So.
Well, when in the years before I became governor, while I was practicing law, we became aware of cable television. They asked me to put in a systematic mall mill, and someone else had already beaten us to it out there. But in the process, my wife and I went to looking around the area on the outskirts of Little Rock. If you wanted to put a cable TV system in inside Little Rock, you had to have a franchise from the city. I imagine it's the same up in Harrison, but those are the early days. But we started building in the rural areas, and the people seemed to like it so much, and it was relatively easy to put in because there weren't so many wires, and it was very successful. We built BB and Little Rock and North Little Rock, the areas outside of them. And later, when I got an invitation to help some folks do the same thing in Indonesia, I went over there, and my wife and I built areas outside of Jakarta and outside of Bali, where there was still a rural population. And that was very popular. And then we got into the cities there and did the same thing in some Chinese areas. And so people from all over the world, France, England, shared the same desire to have access to media and eventually to have access to each other through the internet that operates as it does now. That's been many years ago. This is back in 1990 that we were doing this. So it's been important, and I think it's important for the whole world now.
Green is the place to be. Warm living is the life for me. Land spreading out so far and wide. Keep Manhattan, just give me that countryside.
New York is where I'd rather stay. I get a living smelling hay. I just adore a penthouse view. Darling, I love you, but give me Park Avenue.
The shore,
The stores,
fresh air.
Times Square.
You are my wife.
Goodbye, city life.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up here with the fact that this was done about 25 years ago, and we did this for a management meeting out in Sacramento for cable data. Obviously, we had been merged into cable data in 1994, and I continued as doing work in the international business development, and so we had started with, I think, 15, 20, and then we got up as we grew along about over 50 internationally. And the key point was that we did not have any commercial internet at that time. We were small desktop type PCs, and that's how we got this product out and going, because we had cross-trained people in the U.S. And as you see here, I was driving a Z3 BMW, and we were doing this, we were picking up some international people at the airport. And you see Boone County Airport there at Harrison, really didn't have many people out there. I guess it was early in the day, but still, how easy it is to access, and that's what I mentioned when I was talking about going to Dallas and then to Phoenix. But in this case here, we had Nelson Labelardi. I think he's passed, and then Mary has not been in great health. She was in my neighborhood with Argentina background, and so we had them playing parts. And then at this time, we had some fun with it. Mary played a woman that had a lot of access to capital, and her family had the money, and she had this friend or boyfriend, I guess, and he was there helping her make some decisions on the cable software. And so we just kind of put him in the trunk there. But then when we went to presentation, we always like to talk about localization and obviously the things that go with the culture, but we kind of overdid it here, but that's kind of the way it was at that time. John Bartlow, who's still active and doing cable TV software for customer care, and he traveled all over the place for us. He did a great job, and always still have good times sitting down and talking to him. Carol Warren also did travel. I think she got to travel a lot over in Europe and other places, and she's done some missionary work since then. So I haven't kept up with her that close, but she's still out and about, I think. You can see Nelson Labelardi was playing it pretty actively as far as not paying attention, and then the idea there was that we had won over the main point of the person of Mary, and we still hadn't won over Nelson, and his role was Pablo. So we took him to my house there, which was that time was out on the country club, and we were on the back, and he was greeting my wife, and he had allergies to the dog, or just didn't like it in general. So we didn't make it. That didn't happen, and she's kind of the secret weapon. And so we went on a golf course, and you can see Pablo Nelson was not really a great golfer, and he I'm not sure he golfed any anyway, but in this role he didn't rake the sand track, and of course he kind of watched those people that hit in the sand trap over there right out in front of us. I don't think we ever shot anybody, but this was a figurative thing or symbolism that sometimes you have to fire the customer. In this case, we shot him. I think that was a little bit overdone. As far as people out in California, they didn't particularly like that clip, that part of it anyway. And then Mary, we kind of put the blame on her for her friend getting shot. So she's had a kind of a suspect reputation, but we got her to sign the deal. We were a little bit using a little bit of a motive there of trying to get it done. I had a jailer's cap on there, and so we were having fun with that, and she was crying because we were going to send her to Sacramento, and of course that was fun for us being in the Ozarks and being working with a company out in Sacramento in California. So we had a lot of fun with this thing, and then there was kind of toward the end, so we could.
I'll build a house where you feel safe, and if you call my name, then I'll be there. Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day. When it seems like there's no escape.
Okay, I thought I'd leave the music off on this, but you could see as we had a lot of opportunities to go around the area there. There was Cave Creek where they had the pond where you could feed the fish, and then obviously areas around Cave Creek that we got to see the countryside, and then some of the places there in the old town there of Cave Creek. A lot of valuable homes and expensive homes built into the mountains and the rocks up there. And this is an Apple store, and
in the mall there, the fashion court, and you can see there's a pretty open place here, and of course the temperature. And we went to a restaurant there that was kind of the Mission, and that was an interesting place. And then here you see me at the pool. So that was, again, an opportunity to see or be able to walk at a fast pace, which I hadn't done because of the fear of falling, and I found that that's probably a good therapy for me, and I'm doing that now. So that was some of the things that we wanted to do, and obviously those were great opportunities. There's Bryce again, and Sandy's looking over some artistry at this place. It was nice, and there's a stagecoach that Christy was looking at, and she liked this where you could walk back and forth and see different angles. And here we are at right outside the temple over at Mesa, and here's again is Waymo, and here's the prices that there you see Frontier, all those seats, and then restroom for paying customers only. And here we are. This is probably a different shot, and this is coming back on Southern Airways, and then you can see some of the property there around our area, and then we go back to the purpose of the video, and there you can see some.
Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day. When it seems like there's no escape, I'll build a house where you feel safe. And if you call my name, then I'll be there. Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day. When it seems like there's no escape.
Hey, look at this rock house here.
Look at the rock house. Yeah, now we have a lot of rocks in Arkansas. A lot of.
Where we lived in Salt Lake with my son, they have tons of river rocks. All right, the next section, I wanted to focus on Brazil. Mainly, I think what it brings out a few other points as far as some tourist things. Of course, obviously we took a trip to Rio and Sao Paulo, and then we went on up to Manaus. But within that, there's some interesting things that went on in the culture and manufacturing, and it ties in a lot with differences, because when you're dealing in Brazil, it's a little bit different than say Argentina. Brazil is more finesse and more what we find in the U.S., and you have a different genteel, I guess, type of doing business, whereas in Argentina it's a little more in your face, and how to get things done. You have to get down in the trenches sometimes, so you have to know which culture you're dealing with, and I think that's kind of important as you kind of develop strategies and dealing with people and dealing with people with disabilities, because sometimes we have a tendency, we've got an overall program that we design, and maybe that's the corporate mentality of this is the way we're going to do it, and then there's just so many different levels of people with disabilities, and I've kind of covered that some, but they're not all the same, and there are quite a bit of differences in what they have, and I don't want to, just because of the fact that that's the important part here is learning to deal with people with differences, and how do you deal with those people, and you've got to develop your operations, your customer service, and how you handle that. I mentioned here that I came, I guess I started in rural market with my product, and I got to know people that were owner operators, and they were kind of like the Argentines. They were very much in your face, and you had to answer questions and get things done. You didn't have a lot of times to kind of work it and go up the ladder. And when I did product projects later on, there's a different feel to it when I was doing, say, Time Warner, and we had to go up the ladder, and we had to do a lot of things, particularly because of audits and other things that were under control of different departments. So we had to work through a lot of different things. It wasn't the owner operator kind of giving his blessing, but we had to get each sign off from each group. So I wanted to make that to be aware of both from the customer standpoint and also the corporate businesses that deal with people with differences like disabilities. If you got a one size fits all type attitude, then you're not going to do very well with people with disabilities, and that's one of the big problems when you look at a $7 trillion potential market out there. You're probably missing a lot of that because you haven't figured that out yet. So that's one of the things that you're going to see here. We get into some fun things in Brazil. I guess they're fun. They turned out okay, but when you go to Manaus, you end up going fishing for piranha, and I wanted to show some videos of some people that had made a fishing for piranha and how they did it the wrong way, and Sid describes how to do it the right way. You can go out there and really attract piranha. You shouldn't have near the problem they were having. But
Branch Fisher over here. No piranha so far, just branches.
Really good at fishing branches.
You got one. Show it to us.
I finally caught one. It was a big one too.
Oh, there it is. I am.
Wow.
It's going to move, don't worry.
Wow. Check this out.
There you go. Sam's first piranha. Look at that.
Probably my 20th attempt, and I was not going to give up until I got one.
There it is. Congratulations. There's dinner.
There's dinner.
You never gave up, and finally.
I never gave and finally got one. Now we're going to see its teeth.
Yeah.
Let's check out its teeth. Check out that. Ew. So vicious. Look at those vicious fangs. So, mission accomplished.
it's kind of fun to watch their video, how they were doing it wrong, and how Sid describes how we did it, and how we caught out, as many as we wanted to, as fast as we wanted to. The other part of that is the vast manufacturing. The quality of the manufacturing is unbelievable there in Manaus, and it's the quality that makes it of interest. I mean, obviously to go there and see what they do, because there's so many different things that they're doing, and particularly in electronics and other things that are there. And I wanted to connect that with one of the people in our group in the Rock Steady Boxing, and that's Clyde Johnson. And you'll see where he started and how he grew, and definitely the company his son Harold helped take it to the next level. But what you find there is that it wasn't just at a time when they would probably kept running it forever or as long as they wanted to, but when they were approached, it was an asset management group. And if you've been in financial services, you know that an asset management group, they're going to pay top dollar, and they're not going to buy something that they don't think has got a real good potential. So I think it's interesting to see Clyde Johnson's story, how he started it, but how his son built on that, and really what it ended up being as far as the company, because those are ideas that, much like Manaus being in a remote area, maybe Harrison's in a remote area, but you got people here that have done great things. We had for example, we had the second Walmart store, and Sam Walton thought a lot of Harrison, or it wouldn't have been here. And I've commented on that in different places, but I think this is kind of an important story in the manufacturing area, as well as the tourist thing about going to Brazil. So I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, Sid, we're back here again talking about our trips and our working together, but also I wanted to kind of focus today on Brazil. I know we made a lot of different trips, and some of us to, we went to Rio and we were doing business development, and we kind of talked to some people. I was a little bit less impressed than I thought I'd be on Rio, just because of, I guess they were preparing for the Olympics that time, but there was a lot of overweight foreign people there, and I guess maybe I was one of them. But we had a fun time either checking out the girl from Ipanema, but there was not a whole lot of activity at that time, and maybe some foreign people that came in. But I thought really some of the things that it's the financial capital of Brazil is Sao Paulo, and we went there several times. I mean, I don't know how many times, but a lot of times we were matching up with people or talking to people that were in the cable there, and then there's people that were manufacturing things. So we were traveling in and out of there a lot and talking to people. But one of the people I remember was Gene Musselman, who had done a lot of work over in
the Special Forces guy.
Yeah, Vietnam, and one guy that worked with me was he called him a Charles Bronson type, but he was very favorable. The thing about I remember, he was very complimentary of the work we had done in Budapest for UIH, and UIH was later turned into be Liberty Global and John Malone and all that group. So that was kind of the things that we had done in the European market and now into Brazil, and so it was interesting talking to him. And we always knew that when we went someplace, it would cost quite a bit different going there than getting back. That's a big city. I think I saw it's 12 million, but I've heard 25 million or so.
People usually say 20 million, but
yeah,
who knows?
Well, the thing about that is it's kind of one of those cities that you never hear much about, and it has a lot of financial presence in as far as the South American market. So when it go good or bad, that kind of goes through there. But I had done some work over in Pelotas, as we mentioned in an earlier interview, but that was in southern Brazil. But the thing that was really interesting was when we went to Manaus. It's a city of about 2 million. It's cosmopolitan in the sense that there are people from all over the world there, and I thought, well, it's maybe a sweatshop thing, but it's world-class equipment, and so we had a chance to see people who are doing a lot of different manufacturing. Our focus was set-top boxes, but I know that you'd been to Manaus several times, and it's a tax-free, or at least they give a credit. So what is it about Manaus now that would attract all these people in there to do manufacturing, and why maybe we went there because of the set-top box and other things?
Well, Manaus has a surprising, like you said, surprisingly advanced high-tech infrastructure for manufacturing. There's about 4 or 5 different big plants there that I visited over time. Very sophisticated. I was surprised. They have the latest equipment for all the chips and the whole thing, man. They were very, very advanced. We went there to see how we could line up set-top box manufacturing. Right. So Manaus started out as a center for rubber. Mm-hmm. Years and years, they led the world in rubber production, and then rubber trees were exported down to Indonesia and Thailand and other places pretty soon.
Well, I think being the center of the biggest rainforest in the world is another thing that kind of draws people there. We could go down and see all kinds of ships or boats coming in with all kinds of fish.
They call it the lungs of the world right there.
Yeah, the lungs. Right.
I remember the first time I saw it years and years ago. I was so overcome with it. I got tears in my eyes, actually, because I was thinking, look at the enormous size of this river, the lungs of the world. Yeah. It was quite an experience. It's a beautiful experience to be there. Yes.
Well, one of the things we kind of want to talk about, because I was I'm kind of open to doing a lot of things, but I was a little surprised when we talked about fishing for piranha, and then when we went down to the area there to get a little bait, I remember that we walked around there, and when they heard what we were doing, they said their fish was not for bait, it was for cooking. So we had to kind of get away from that. But also the little boat that we went out on, was, when they talk about getting a bigger boat, we probably need to get a bigger boat. But there's one guy that was guide, and he seemed to be reliable, but we didn't do any other checking other than just talk to him, and his rates were really reasonable, and he actually had a cell phone at that time even, so we knew that he could call somebody, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to be. So I thought appreciation or.
First of all, let's say that the two rivers come together. The Rio Negro comes in from the northwest, and the Salimois comes from the.
So it's kind of black, and you can see where they
The
match.
Salimois River is kind of tan colored.
Yeah.
And the Rio Negro, as the name implies, is dark. And then the two waters mix. You can see them come. You see the tan water and you see the black water. They're flowing together for quite a ways downstream before it starts to mix together again.
Okay.
And good fishing where they two first come together there. In fact, they have dolphins there, freshwater dolphins.
Yeah, I think that's what people.
Kind of pinkish colored ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what kind of bass? They have some kind of bass there too, don't they?
They have a bass called tucunare.
Okay.
Some people call it a peacock bass.
Yeah, the peacock bass.
Yeah.
That's what you hear the real fishermen. You know, we're close to the Bass Pro, and I've seen a little bit of that with Johnny Morrison. So he's got an aquarium. And talked a little bit about going down there, but I didn't see him say much about going out for the, piranha. But I think the peacock bass is what people go down there for.
There's another big fish called tucunare.
Okay.
It's a great big fish, can get to be 10 feet. And it's got big, thick scales on it.
Yeah.
And the problem is, it's starting to get a little overfished. And the tucunare are hard to find now.
Okay.
And we went to that restaurant we had there, we ate tucunare.
Mm-hmm.
And but the tucunare were like 10, 11 feet. Now they're starting to be a little bit smaller. The big ones are hard to get.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, they have the fish they call the shark of the river. Piraiba. It's called piraiba. It's a great big fish with a big tail, and it's kind of like a catfish sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's been known to swallow little children swimming in the river.
Yeah.
Oh, the big mouth comes up, boom, they're gone.
So you being a pilot and heard the story about the kids that survived for 40 days here recently when they crashed, and was that pretty amazing to you that they could kind of stay around where the plane crashed and be able to survive in that situation?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
kind of me too. I mean, they actually knew what to do and how to survive on that, because we know there's a lot of things you can eat there.
Well, you and I went fishing for piranhas, right?
Yeah.
And you get a hook with a long shank on it because their teeth will cut through anything.
Right.
So you have a long shank on it. And just a raw piece of meat, just a piece of beef, red beef.
It is why everyone.
Then you stay in the boat, and you thrash the water with the pole so that the piranha thinks that something's struggling.
Yeah.
Then you drop the line down there, and wham, they hit it.
Well, the funny thing about that is that they knew the difference in that and some ducks paddling around pretty close by, and even kids swimming. So I think people thinking they're going to attack people, but it really the blood and being more of like a wolf or something going after anything that's got blood on it is really the draw there. And
I think there was a little pier there, one of those places we were at, and some little kids swimming, and the mother was there. I said, "How come you don't swim there? There's all kinds of piranhas."
Yeah.
He said, "Well, they're not bleeding."
Yeah.
How do you know they're not going to jump off and cut their foot with it? But she didn't seem that worried.
Yeah.
Well, boy, that thing goes after that raw fish. I mean, that raw bait real fast.
Yeah. Well, the thing I found out is I wasn't the one to take one off. I know you could take it off the hook, but I had the guy that was with us, and he had kind of a missing finger or two or tip of finger. So.
Well, when the mouse is going like that continually, they got those real sharp teeth.
Yeah. Well, the thing there was, after we caught them, we caught several. It was easy to catch, and we went to a place. And again, I'm sure this worked out with our guide a little bit, to a place, kind of a riverboat or whatever. And there was a lady there that was kind of telling us how they cooked it, and sometimes the soup, and sometimes they fried it. And
First piranha. Look at that.
Probably my 20th attempt, and I was not going to give up until I got one.
There it is.
There
Congratulations.
it is.
There's dinner.
There's dinner.
You never gave up, and finally.
I never gave and finally got one. Now we're going to see its teeth.
Yeah.
Let's check out its teeth. Check out that. Ew. So vicious. Look at those vicious fangs. So, mission accomplished. Time to head back.
my friend that's a writer at the newspaper, Arkansas Democrat Gazette, wrote an article about the fish.
Well, that's what this lady did. She gutted it, of course, and then she fried it in what I think was butter, looked like butter, flipped it over like that, and put a lot of garlic on it,
salt. And we ate the piranha, so the piranha eating us.
Yeah. Well, that was the good thing about the things that we did in Brazil. We did make a trip over to Fortaleza, and we I think we tasted a lot of different juices, and that was a fun evening too. But there's a lot of different things we were able to do. And I'm gonna kind of wrap up the Brazil part of it at this point, and then we'll talk about Argentina next.
Okay.
Jump right into the interview here. What's been your primary source of work throughout your lifetime?
It's been in manufacturing. I came to Harrison, Arkansas in 1955 and hired on as in Duncan Industries, one of the older industries. It's not here anymore. Got laid off there and got an opportunity to go to work for what is now PACE. It was called Arkansas Diecast at that time. But I worked for them 15 years. Was a second employee, and we just recently I had dinner with the fellow that was hired in about 3 months before I was. Had a good visit with him last Saturday.
Second employee?
Yeah, and after 15 years with this company, my main, I suppose, goal in life was continuing manufacturing, to start my own business. I had an opportunity my family did, to get in manufacturing on our own, and we ran that. I worked that business 30 years. My son worked 40 years. All of his career, he worked in manufacturing in our own business. But we've been blessed by having a great employee base. We had up to 50 people working at one time.
Okay. What was the name of your company?
It was Johnson Manufacturing Company.
Okay. What did you specialize in?
Well, we specialized in the early days. We started out with a display turntable. Had some 50 component parts in it. We sold it, I think, some 38 states in the United States and a couple of foreign countries. We diversified in machine work, precision machine work with different industries here in town, and then later diversified into die casting, and later into plastic injection molding. We felt like that's where the future was going to be, and that worked good for us. We were very, very blessed. So our business go from one part-time employee to 50 full-time employees. So we were definitely very blessed.
All right. So yeah, it sounds like you spanned the whole gambit in manufacturing, from die cast all the way over to the plastic mold injection stuff.
We were fortunate enough to have a party come along after our 50 years in business. They wanted to buy our business, and we didn't have it for sale at that time, but we were able to make a decision to go with it. It worked out great for both parties. I believe it's going to continue to run under the same name.
Cool. So how long ago were you diagnosed? Diagnosed with Parkinson's?
This fall will be 2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Okay. So what is probably the most difficult thing you have to deal with the disease?
Well, at the present, I feel like the most effective physically is my speech. I'm having more difficulty with my speech than accepting the Parkinson's disease itself. But I was told by my doctor that to stay active as long as I could would be the most profitable thing for my health. Okay. And that's what I've tried to do in the exercise program like we're involved in. This place is a place you'd like to go, yeah. I've always thought I would go to Detroit and see Henry Ford Museum and all these collection cars, because I love old cars and I've restored several, and I have a desire to go to the original museum and visit that someday. So if I live long enough, maybe I'll get around to that.
There you go. Well, I've seen some of the work you've done, and it's pretty impressive on your vehicles there.
Thank you. We enjoy them.
All right.
A little bit more about that 56 Chevy.
Well, I actually worked at a dealership, Chevrolet dealership, when I was in high school, part-time. And I got to watch them hide the new models each year. And back then, they used to keep them covered. Well, I got to see the 55s when they first came out. The first V8 major body change General Motors made in many years. And I really fell in love with them at that time. And it turns out
that the 5, 6, and 7, 55, 67 years were really classic years for AAA. They sold a lot of them, and there's still a lot of them around. But I decided right then in 1955 that I would sure like to buy one when they came out the next year. And I was able to save enough money and have a job well enough that I could pay for one. So I bought it in 56. My wife and I got married in 57. And,
What did it cost you when you bought it?
it was $2,300.
$2,300?
Yeah. My payment's $78 a month.
Okay.
That may not sound much, but when you're only making about $45 a week, that's almost 2 checks a week, 2 checks out of the month to pay for it.
Okay.
Over $4 now.
Well, congratulations.
And my wife always said if I ever left her, she'd let me have my 56 and a clean pair of underwear.
Yeah, I learned about life for every mile we went through. 'Cause that's what a Chevy and a daddy.
Next, I wanted to combine Uruguay and Argentina, mainly because of the proximity there. They're very close, but I think when we talk about being a rain man, a person that can create business, and that's what Sid was able to do, and the reason that I was working with Sid, he brought to the table a lot of things that maybe people don't exactly understand how he did it, but you have to know the culture, and again, knowing the culture is a little bit like knowing people with disabilities. There's so many similarities in the story we're telling here, and how we dealt with people with differences, and how people that are failing to deal with people with differences when they don't, do a good job of marketing to people with disabilities. I'm finding it they don't do a very good job. I mean, I've been out there personally on various levels, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, but I can also tell you, but experiences in the past. My daughter having a birth defect, I've seen it all through her life, so I saw it from her side and maybe as a parent, but then I fought a lot of battles there, and a lot of times I wasn't going for the money, and by not going for the money, it's hard to get people interested in taking on that project. I mean, I just wanted to get the results and get something changed, which is difficult to do. But in this case here, the opportunity was to find some things and how businesses have missed the boat internationally, and you can see that. We have a fun thing with a person that we went to his place in Uruguay, a ranch, and obviously you got to see the gauchos and all the things that they had going in their lives, and how they lived, and how the technology changed very quickly over just a very brief period of time, and there were a lot of surprises. From a telecommunications standpoint, was pretty amazing, really. And so to get to be there and see that was very interesting. Plus, riding the horses and going out on this big 10,000 acre ranch, and I don't know, he had 2,000 herd of Hereford, and he did most of his business in Europe, and he had some sheep there, and they used a lot of the sheep for meals for the gauchos and their families, and a lot of those lived in lean-tos on the backside of his property, and the way he ran that was of real interest. And then later on we talk about Brazil, and then going out and fishing for piranha, and also just the manufacturing there. So a lot of things that went on, and then into Argentina, where we dealt with people there, and got to see a lot about the culture there, and the impact of Evita. And we were there during a period where the movie Evita was being filmed, and Madonna was in and out of there, and I think they had some issues at time, and she had to go over to Hungary or somewhere and finish the movie. But you just see a lot of things where people have failures in dealing with culture. So the whole story there is a lot of the things you come up with and surprises you come up with. Okay, Sid, I was really wanting to look closer at, you were kind of got the reputation of being a rainmaker, a person that generated a lot of business for people. And we got together because of when I sold to Cable Data a few years ago, and we merged. And I wanted to focus on really global business development. And I know
I was born in Arizona, as you know. I'm actually a fourth generation Arizona, which is kind of unusual. But I grew up in South America.
Right.
My father, first of all, was a missionary.
Right.
And then he came back to the United States, finished his education. And then he became a diplomat with the U.S. government.
Okay.
As a result of that experience, I got a chance to mingle with a lot of prominent families. As an American diplomat in countries down there, I got to mingle with a lot of, prominent families whose children grew up and became powerful people in different places. And I think you want me to talk about that branch in your area. One of the families that I got to know, I think I was 9, 10 years old, and he was maybe a year younger. It's a guy named Jaime Luch. And his grandfather founded a big, giant cattle ranch in Uruguay. I think it was roughly 10,000 acres or something. Prime cattle land. Right. I mean, as prime as it gets. And then over the years, he inherited the whole thing. And, he and his brother. And I go back and see him all the time. I rode the range with him since I was 12 years old. We'd get use their horses and go back and forth. And excuse my voice.
Oh, yeah.
And we traveled all over down there. Then,
I was thinking about the times we went to visit him, and going out there was kind of an experience. But when we got there, first time I went out there, they had the old crank phones.
Oh,
you had
yes,
to crank
yes.
to get to an operator somewhere. I don't know.
We
didn't use it very much, but you had access to going out.
I think the first time we went out there, he has his home, a beautiful home, remember that big house he had? He lived in another one, but he refused to live in the big house. I don't know why it bothered him.
Yeah.
And so to call out to the little office he had way out in the interior of the ranch, it was a crank phone. I remember running a line, helping him run a line, a big pole, one line out to that house out there. And you go, can you hear me? And that's the way we communicated to the office out there. And that's the way we communicated around.
Yeah.
Then the next time we went out, it was all wireless.
Yeah, wireless.
I mean, they leapfrogged over everything in a matter of months, it seemed like.
Yeah.
And then they had all the wireless.
It's always, and we did a cable system up not too far from there in Pelotas, Brazil, and I think the guy there, he was American, but it was, the old Adelphia system. But so we were close there from that property, but we went on the backside of his property, and the gauchos there were, their families were living in lean-tos, and they were watching TV. And I thought the other part of the technology picture was that they were watching television in those lean-tos, and there's no power out there, but they had the TVs were charged with batteries, and they would get signal from Brazil, and so they could do a lot of things that people wouldn't imagine could do even back at that time. So I thought the fact that you had developed some of these friendships. Now, we'll get into this and some of the business things that we got into and how we were able to talk to certain people, and we actually went out to dinner with the ambassador, and we'll kind of hold that for another story. But I think what I realized in culture is that it was a top-down sell. You didn't try to work your way up like you might in the States or somewhere. That you really had to go top-down because everything changed so quickly that you had to be there, but you also had to sell it on a top-down level.
As we recall in Buenos Aires, the head of the Cablevisión was a guy named Ernequian, an Armenian immigrant to Argentina. And we started with him, the president of the company. Then when I think you and Lenicum and a few others came out at that time, we started with him and then worked our way down.
Yeah, and that was real important. But I think it's kind of interesting, the culture down there. As far as I always thought, the Brazilian culture was a little more delicate, and the Argentina culture was a little more forceful or in your face, and when you had to know when you were going in to make a presentation that you were going to deal with people that were going to be asking you questions and they wanted answers and they didn't want to waste a lot of time. And sometimes you go into others, but when I started out in cable, it was in a rural area, and all those people were kind of like the Argentina. They were pretty forceful because they didn't have a lot of time and they were doing everything. They were cross-trained and they were running a business. They didn't want to waste their time. And then when we went up and sold things with Time Warner and other people, it was a pretty delicate, trip up the ladder of management. So going international, and that's kind of what you brought into the picture, and what I saw to be successful there is that you had to be good listeners, and you also had to be in a position where you had to accept some of the cultural things and not fight them because they were pretty important to them, and until you could show that it was not the most efficient way or there was issues with it, you had to go and see how well you could probably meet their cultural demands, because if you tried to go around those, then you probably were losing it before you ever got started. So that was another important thing we learned when we were down particularly in South America, I think.
Yeah, it's we had to do that. Start at the top, work down.
And that's why sometimes when people try to do things internationally, they really make a mistake. They don't understand the culture, and that's what I'm saying here is that they think they're going to do it like they've always done it, or they're going to tell people that they're going to do it their way, and it doesn't happen. I mean, we could compete with big companies because they were trying to do it the way the U.S. did it, but you could go in and be cross-trained and be very flexible to their needs. So we're going to wrap that up.
My name is Charles Cantrell, and we're here with the Baroness, the Cattle Baroness of Northwest Arkansas, Carlene Morris. She is one of our Rocksteady Boxing participants, and we'll just get in with the interview. So, over the years, what has been your primary work focus?
Okay, well, I've worked 36 years in the superintendent schools office, and well, not based all in superintendent schools office, but in the Harrison School District. I was an aide for a few years, and then a position came open for an administrative assistant for our new superintendent, Charles Adair, and I interviewed with him and became his administrative assistant, and I worked there for like 30 some odd years. Until I retired in 2010-11, I believe.
Okay. So, next question is, how long ago were you diagnosed with Parkinson's?
10 years ago. I was 59 years old, and I was thinking, well, I really wasn't thinking, I was nearing retirement age, and then I began to get sort of being anxious when I go to board meetings and have to take minutes, and if there was anything that come up that would challenge me, that would kind of set off an anxiety attack.
Okay. So let's see, what is probably one of the most difficult things to deal with in this disease for you?
Well, I've tended to, my personality has changed some. I'm always kind of a challenging person, but my husband has said that I'm harder to get along with. I'm more opinionated, and I like my way.
Okay.
And I can see that. You can too, can't you?
Yes, I can. Yes. All right. So is there any humor humor would be a good word to use to kind of get you through some of your harder times
well, you
with
have
the disease?
You have to laugh, because if you don't, you'll cry.
Okay.
And sometimes I tend to get want to have a pity party, and then I think, you can either do that, you can either laugh about it, or you can cry about it, and crying won't do a bit of good, and laughter is the best medicine.
That's right. Yeah. So other than where you live, is there any place that you would call your happy place or would like to go just to visit?
Later on in our lives, we started going to the mountains. We started going to Colorado and going up on our side-by-side rides up to the 14,000 mile high mountains, and it's always cool. And I do better with cool than hot with the Parkinson's. So I would like to do that again. And I've always enjoyed traveling, and I'm always up for traveling, but it's another thing that causes anxiety. So
Yeah, I think we've talked about that a little bit there, especially when you go down and visit your daughter. You said you finally got the courage to fly down there by yourself not too long ago. How about talking about that a little bit?
well, I don't know. It's just like doing this interview here. It scares me. It's almost, you're afraid to be your real self.
Okay.
Because you've always been strong, and this disease, it eliminates your weaknesses, and it's hard for me to admit that to people.
Okay. All right.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I never left you. All through my wild days, my mad existence, I kept my promise.
Argentina, I know you kind of grew up down there, so you're very familiar with Buenos Aires.
I always tell people, I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, but my hometown is Buenos Aires.
All right. Well, you were mistaken many times as being an Argentine, and of course you're able to go to Brazil and handle that language as well. So no big deal there. But that was the benefit there, being able to be bilingual as well as being
Trilingual.
Yeah, that's right. When you start talking about the Portuguese, so I think people get confused on that when you start into the difference there, and there's a lot of little differences and things that people can pick up on, whether you are fluent in Argentine or if you're into Brazilian, as far as Portuguese. So, but the times I went down there, I know I look back at my passports at least 30 times, and there were a lot of different reasons to go down here and talk to people. And one of the things that I always stayed at the Marriott Plaza, which it bordered on the Florida street, and it was real active there, and you just walk down it. It was closed off to traffic. And then the other was the front, right out to the, there was a plaza there that you could see everything. And wasn't too much of a walk over to the Recoleta, which is the cemetery over there. So we were able to do a lot of things from that location. But one of the things that was kind of an interesting story was the doorman. He was a real popular guy, and he was really one of the best in tango. And when Madonna came down and she was doing the movie Evita, and she had to be trained, I think, more for the Argentine type of tango. But I remember the doorman, and I don't know what your remembers are, but he was really very good. But he was doing so many other things than just being a doorman. He was very popular. So
yeah, he was very popular. One time I was walking into that plaza, and there was Robert Duvall. He was making a movie there at the same time. Yeah, that.
If you look up Marriott and look at the plaza and look at the old, you can see everybody that stayed there over the years, whereas astronauts or
that was the place to stay. Now they got 2 or 3 other hotels.
Yeah. It's a little different world now, but back then at that time when we were doing that, but that was kind of the interesting part there. And I remember one night, and we made some contacts here and had some discussion, but when you have the Argentina, the ambassador, not the ambassador, but they came there and picked us up, and he picked us up, and he was wearing jeans, and he had a driver, and he was in black Mercedes, and we were all dressed in a suit, and so it was kind of interesting to go out, and he was a rock star at that time because he was supporting some of the low level.
Oh, he supported. He was a supporter of one of the national teams there.
Yeah.
I forget which one it was, but he was very popular.
Yeah.
He had a big flag of the teams up on the wall in the embassy.
Yeah. So it was an interesting time to do that, and we had a lot of interesting times with Pablo Abdian, who helped us with the system over in Brazil. But we had Group Bull, which was a distributor, and really it was kind of important to get a distributor there, and the people there.
One of the more modern looking as well. You can see these plaques here look a little bit more modern than most of what we've seen around the cemetery.
The reason that Evita's monument looks more modern is because although she died in 1952, it took over 20 years for them to actually put her body here for political reasons, and I think she was put here in 1976, so 24 years later her body finally got to be here in Recoleta among other people.
It's on one of the more narrower avenues, but it is in block C7, not H6. Whoopsie.
Eva Perón, famously known as Evita, was the second wife of Argentine President Juan Perón. As First Lady, Eva became a powerful though unofficial political leader, revered by the lower economical classes. Eva was born an illegitimate child and raised by her mother. At age 15, she made her way to Buenos Aires to pursue a career in acting. This was where she met her future husband and played a huge role in his campaign for presidency, as she won the admiration of the masses. Eva acted as de facto Minister of Health and Labour, awarding generous wage increases to the unions, who responded with political support. She cut off government subsidies, making enemies among the traditional elite, and instead created her own Eva Perón Foundation, which established thousands of hospitals, schools, orphanages, homes for the aged, and other charitable institutions. Eva was largely responsible for the passage of the women's suffrage law and formed the Peronista Feminist Party in 1949. In 1951, although dying of cancer, she obtained the nomination for vice president, but the nation's military and bourgeoisie, coupled with her illness, forced her to withdraw her candidacy. In 1952, shortly before her death from cancer at 33, Eva Perón was given the title of Spiritual Leader of the Nation by the Argentine Congress. She was given a state funeral upon her death, a privilege generally reserved for heads of state.
Then we took a walk out to the cemetery. You wanted to find Evita's
It was kind of a rainy day, and we were out there traipsing around in the Recoleta, and
we went out there, and finally we found her
where the Duartes were buried.
Yeah, and in her tomb it says, "I left as one, I shall return as millions."
Yeah.
So people are still waiting for her to come back with her millions. She hasn't come back.
I'm their product, it's vital you sell me. So Machiavelli me, make an Argentine rose. I need to be thrilling, I want to be rainbow.
Yeah, I would say, when I was thinking about that a while ago, when I was talking about the ambassador, it was James or Jim Cheek and he'd actually been, I guess, appointed by Bill Clinton, but he had been over in Africa and some other places before he went, to there. And there are a lot of things recently about Ted Lasso and his supporting a low-level soccer team, but I thought that was I saw something about Menem, the president, one time sending him a message because he was kind of getting over the officials in one thing that maybe they had some trouble with. So he was well remembered for that, because I saw when he died that there was a lot of people saying that there's no better American that they'd seen in Argentina than him.
He was beloved.
Yeah, he was. And
San Lorenzo, that was the team he supported.
Yeah.
San Lorenzo.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. The fact he supported the local team just made him enormously popular.
Yeah.
He'd go there and he'd stand and they'd cheer and,
Well, we went down. I know one time we were there and we did go to a soccer match, and it was pretty interesting because they had the chicken wire fence around some of the club rowdies, I guess, and they had a lot of activity going on there. I've always been to the American football, but when you went there, it was kind of totally different.
I'll tell you what, in Argentina and Brazil and a lot of those countries, soccer is not a sport.
Yeah.
It's a religion.
Yeah.
And you don't leave your religion. To be converted to another, you're an infidel or something, you know. You start out supporting one team and you support them all.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I was following, the World Cup, and for them to win like they did, I mean, they had some real exciting matches, and I don't know anytime I've been so involved with soccer, usually not that big a soccer fan, but when the World Cup was going on, I just knew that so many of the people that were my friends down there, they were, they just watched every move and everything, so I enjoyed that. And
Maradona was a demigod in Argentina.
Yeah.
Then after he died, he wasn't a real good example as a human being, but he was a tremendous soccer player. Then Messi took over, Lionel Messi.
Yeah,
now Messi is the demigod. Messi's a good role model for young people.
Yeah.
Maradona wasn't quite the role model.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be either, but Messi is just basically a good guy.
I think when we were at that match, or that Maradona was there, and I remember the buzz and excitement when somebody like that attends a soccer match like that. So there's a lot of things that you just can't believe goes on when all those things are happening. So I really like Argentina. The place over there with the grapes, I forget the city where all the, they grow the grapes.
Mendoza.
Yeah. We went over there and we were working with some people over there.
Yeah.
And it was kind of an interesting place because of being a little ways from Buenos Aires, but also a lot of the things they were doing technically.
Beautiful little place.
Yeah. No, that was great.
Nice setting.
Yeah, that was very, very nice. So we're going to wrap it up for Argentina, and we'll come back on another one here.
Okay.
It won't be easy. You'll think it's strange when I try to explain how I feel, that I still need your love after all that I've done. You won't believe me. All you will see is a girl you once knew, although she's dressed up to the nines, at 6s and 7s with you. I had to let it happen. I had to change. Couldn't stay on my life down at heel. Looking out of the window, staying out of the sun. So I chose freedom, running around, trying everything new, but nothing impressed me at all. I never expected it to. Don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I never left you. All through my wild days, my mad existence, I kept my promise. Don't keep your distance.
Okay, this story is not talking about necessarily the warts that each community has or each people have. And again, Sid, being a Mormon, he's well aware of the Mountain Meadow massacre, and he didn't know. I guess when we first met, and even on maybe his first trip or two into Harrison, that the wagon train started here or in this area, because it really doesn't say much about the city. It talks about Arkansas and in Missouri and Illinois people, that were in that. But when you start getting into the facts and you see that J.K. Fancher locally, he's passed, but he was in my Kiwanis Club, and he had a lot of history on it. Plus, he's a descendant of the Fancher that was killed on Mountain Massacre. And then Sid has some connections with people and family that from the Mormon side that were knowledgeable about the event. And again, sometimes you have events that happen and things you talk about, but it's more or less things that you have with people with differences, and you don't necessarily have to ignore all those differences. You can discuss them, and sometimes it's best to discuss them so that you kind of know what they know and what they think and what I know and what I think. And I know that we have a similar thing with warts here with in Harrison, but with the KKK or Klan and varying ways that that's been handled, and it's been handled poorly as far as my research. But the fact that it's even got worse with some of the things that's going on in social media. So I understand that that getting the facts right and going back and doing the research I did over a 4-year period was important. But there were some things that I uncovered that some things were intertwined. That it was a disappointment. So I kind of know where he's coming from too. So it wasn't like I was trying to jump on him about that, but also to have an understanding and mention the fact that everybody has these kind of issues. And it's nice to hear Sidney Moncrief's thoughts on it, and you'll see some other thoughts about John Paul Hammersmith and what the former governor there, Jim Guy Tucker, has to say about that, and then even what Marty Burlsworth has to say about Harrison. So there's a lot of different things out there and a lot of things to cover, but I wanted to at least have that subject covered, and I didn't want to do it in a way that I wanted to do it in a professional way, in the sense that we discussed it from our thoughts and not necessarily be a one-sided conversation.
Damn, love couldn't go no further. Proud of and disgusted by her. Push on the little bruised and battered. Oh Lord, I ain't coming home with you. My life's a bit more colder. Damn, wife is what I told her. Brass knife sticks to my shoulder. Oh babe, don't know what I'm gonna do. I see my redhead Miss Betty shed creepy squeaks. The stage smells, tells, hells, bells, misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood, squirt, stuff, shooting me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds, hell, I'll be in good company. Damn, love couldn't go no further. Proud of and disgusted by her. Push on a little bruised and battered. Oh Lord, I ain't coming home with you. My life's a bit more colder. Damn, wife is what I told her. Brass knife sticks to my shoulder. Oh babe, don't know what I'm gonna do.
my redhead muskrat to shed cream bean squeeze. The stage smells, tells, hells, bells, misspells, knocks me on my knees. It didn't hurt, flirt, blood squirt, stop shooting me on a tree. After I count down 3 rounds, in hell I'll be in good company. In hell I'll be in good company. In hell I'll be in good company.
Here at Harrison, Arkansas, the Mountain Meadow Massacre. I guess as far as people heading to the west to find their happy place, there were a lot of people that were started from Harrison. Part of it was the Fancher group, and they were in wagon trains, and they started outside the city of Harrison. Harrison is known for being hub of the Ozarks, and the area around here is obviously we have the Buffalo River. It's a national river. A lot of people come there to float. We have several lakes and several other activities around close to obviously Johnny Morse's development in south of Branson and Branson itself, but you have the activities around Big Cedar, and obviously things that Bass Pro has put in there with golf courses, and courses have been designed by some of the major golfers. Tiger Woods is one, and several others. So it's a very nice resort, and this is all close here. But this is a starting place, and this is a place that plan to go to leave from here to go to Phoenix. But the idea there is that people were looking for their happy place, and there was some disappointment, but we're hoping to find to avoid the mistakes they made. Well, one thing I wanted to talk about, because every community's got their warts, and Harrison sure has had that recently in social media, dealing with the KKK, and even though that's something we can have trouble with because of social media, and in fact that people can say a lot of things that are not true, and I've done about 4 years of history and discovery. But I was thinking back, because we are close friends, and how sometimes people with differences, they sometimes try to skirt around them, and they don't talk about them or discuss them. And so I did want to at least briefly talk about the Mountain Meadow Massacre. I know when, and I don't know, after a time or two, or maybe more than that, you came in to Harrison. I said something about the statue or something. So I just wanted to kind of get your emotion when you went down the square there and you saw the Mountain Meadow Massacre, and what your thinkings are, just kind of so I can kind of have that out there. So,
well, when I was in Harrison, you took me over to that monument. There was a monument there. It had a listing of the Fancher Party, the names of the people.
Yeah.
Then it said something, I don't remember the word, but it was something like murdered by the Mormons or something.
Yeah.
And I knew a little bit about the mountain. It's kind of a black spot, And
yeah.
I knew a little bit about it. And then it turns out that my great-great-grandfather wasn't involved in that mountain, but he was in that area, and he was in Utah, in northern Utah at the time, and when this happened, and he somehow got involved. He knew a little bit about it and so forth, and then later when they had a trial on it. Now, my feeling about the Mountain Meadow Massacre is I cannot explain why somebody would have a reaction like that. I don't care what they said. Supposedly one of the party held up a rifle and said, "This is the rifle that killed Joseph Smith," which was an impossibility, at least I think it was. But some of these guys just got so angry. They were so hurt by having to be moved out of Illinois, then moved out of Missouri, and forced to come back, come west. You know, they were just very sensitive about it. When some guy said, "This is the gun," you know, they said, "Okay, that's it, man. We're not taking it anymore." There is no justification for what was done.
Yeah.
No way. No justification. But people, human beings, you know. And so I went to Mount Metter. They have a tube. And you look through this tube, it's a metal tube, and it says, "There's where it took place." And it was out in this open area, of course. And what happened there is tragic. And it's not a proper thing. It's an embarrassment to me personally. And the fact that my great-great-grandfather owned land in that area and somehow got involved. And the guy that took the heat on this thing was John D. Lee. And right now I fish a place up on the Colorado River called Lee's Ferry. Excellent fishing for trout there. And that's where he had a ferry. But he kind of took the heat and suffered capital punishment for it.
Right.
And because my great-great-grandfather had something to do with the testimony against him, I'm not sure exactly, I don't know the detail, but somehow he got involved. The Lee family in St. John's and the descendants of Jacob Hamlin, who were my line of people, had enmity between them when they were young. My dad told me, he said, "Yeah, I can remember feeling enmity between the Lees because of Jacob Hamlin." And but later on in college, I got to know Rex Lee, who became president, was the attorney, a big-time attorney in Washington, D.C. Then later became dean of the law school at BYU, then president of BYU. Right. Tremendous guy. And I made friends with him, and my cousins, we all made friends with him. Everything was forgotten. It's just so long ago, forget about it, you know. No enmity. We don't know exactly why. The Lord will have to judge all that.
Yeah,
I certainly can't. I don't have enough. I mean, it looks bad to me, but I'm not the one judging it.
Right. And I know that in your visit to
Harrison. Yeah, that's right. Then we went to Harrison.
And
what's Fancher's first name?
J.K.
Yeah. J.K.
At the Kiwanis Club. Yeah, you met with
him.
Yeah,
I met him. We talked about that. We kind of had a good talk about it. And
yeah, he's a historian. He's collected all.
Oh, he knew more stuff about it than I did. He knew all about Jacob Hamlin too.
Yeah.
Oh, he said, "You're descendant of Jacob Hamlin." I said, "Yeah." "Oh, yeah, I know all about your anyway." But Jacob Hamlin was a good guy, and how he got involved testifying against John D. Lee, I'm not sure, but I think Fancher and I shook hands and
it was a congenial thing, and I think it was great. You know, the thing is that we did so many things, and we didn't really realize we needed this thing started in Arkansas, but we did. Maybe we hadn't connected the fact that we had a monument there in Harrison that kind of shows where the Mountain Meadow Massacre people left from, and that area. It was kind of out.
It was a very sad thing that happened, and in my mind, there's no way to really justify. What they should have said is, look, they were causing problems. Just let them, get them on their way, get them out of there, move them on wherever they want to go. Just stop and do what they do.
See all the stories. You can go to YouTube and you can get all kinds of things. But really, what brought it into this story a little bit is that there's a broad subject about accepting people for differences, and sometimes we talk about that with people with disabilities and other things. But close friends may have some differences, and some of these things that pop up that you didn't even think about. But most of the time, and I think it's appropriate that you can kind of at least go back and revisit it and discuss it, so you kind of feel, what each person thinks about it. But it's not necessarily going to be settled for the people in the past, but it's just something we can talk about as we go forward as friends. And that's really what some of the things I wanted to do is to kind of approach that from that direction.
One thing that I think about, and forgive me for getting a little biblical here, but the life of Christ.
Yeah.
Look at this man, Jesus Christ. More than a man. Who did he deal with? He met with people at the lowest level. His biggest problem was people that were hypocrites. That was the biggest sin, hypocrisy. He dealt with lower level people. He dealt with lepers. He dealt with women in sin. He dealt with this, that. Why did he do that? Here's this Son of God and all the power that he had and all the thing behind him, and yet he would see the lowest people. Why? I would ask myself, why because he could see human potential in the lowest form of humanity. And that's what we've got to do, in my opinion. We've got to understand human beings have enormous potential in eternity. But we've got to learn to see that like he did. And not judge, I say, but love. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do. Too many times we want to act all elitist and we do all these things, be superior, above other people. We separate ourselves sometimes by race, by education, by good looks, by whatever, money, and we can't do that.
Okay.
It has to be, we have to see every human being the way they are, the way Christ saw them.
All right. I think that's really some great points, and I wanted to wrap that up at this point, and we're about to do a wrap up.
Okay.
They hear from me the positive side. It has a lot of very conscientious, caring people, very smart people that are from there that have gone out and done well. But every once in a while, a town or a community or a certain group of people, they get a bad name by an incident or two, and it sticks with them longer than what it should. I'm just very, very pleased that the Mayor Jackson, has really taken the town and stepped outside of the community to show people the type of place Harrison really is.
Well, I appreciate the comments, and we'll be staying in touch and always keeping, I guess, our mutual friend Bud Grisham. As I said, he celebrated his 90th birthday, so he said, I said, well, what do you do during the day? And he said, well, I go out and follow the bulldozer. So he still goes out and he's doing some land development. So he's staying busy. But he doesn't say.
I told him to be careful.
Yeah.
I told him to be careful. I spoke to him today.
Did you?
Wished him a happy birthday. He likes to be outside a lot. And of course, with these temperatures,
that's what I was saying too.
They're cautious.
Yeah, he always talks about the days of meeting you playing tennis and how you came on to be really a good tennis player, and he can't play tennis because of his eyesight now, but he still goes out and hits the golf ball. So that's
maybe I can beat him in tennis now.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Sid.
Hey man, who's that cat coming down the street?
I don't know, but it sounds to me like that's just the man with the bone.
Sure having himself a ball.
John Paul was an absolute delight. I respected him so much. When I went to Congress and got to see him every day, multiple times on the floor of the House, I just liked him, and I liked to listen to him. And I guess I saw him towards the end of his life when I came up. I think you had invited me up to make some remarks to Civic Club there. John Paul was present, and afterwards we walked over to his office. It was part of the joy of a small town was to be able to walk out of a meeting like that and just stroll across the square and by the trees and sit down and have a nice, quiet visit. And we did. He showed me pictures that he had on his wall. We had a good long talk. It was the last time I saw him.
Really? Okay.
And, he was a wonderful representative, not only for his district, the 3rd District of Arkansas, including Boone County, but also for our whole state. And if everyone we had in Congress could be as rational and open to hearing what other people have to say and to weighing what they have to say and whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, and not just knee-jerk to something being bad. Wonderful. Listen, be pleasant, and use the intelligence God gave us to help out the other fellow, help the world.
Yeah, I know that at that time when I invited you up to, actually it was the Kiwanis Club, and the reason, of course, is our friendship over the years, but the other thing was every time I was at the post office and ran into John Paul, he had to say, how's our mutual friend Jim Guy doing? And I know you had some common interests because of the military. Of course, he was a veteran of World War II, and obviously you'd been to Vietnam, so there was some commonality there, and it was kind of interesting, and it's a little bit more the political surroundings that we've had over the last few years. Is as much as John Paul did for the Northwest District and the interstate and all the things he did with the NWA, that the Boone County and Harrison ended up in the Delta region, and not that that's the issues with, I guess, with population and redistribution, but it's kind of odd, and of course, I don't know, it just seemed like it was taken pretty quietly, and I thought that's kind of odd that as much as he did and everything he did for that region over there, that eventually, Harrison and Boone County would be going to a kind of a totally different situation in the Delta. So that's one of the things that's happened over the last few years with the politics. But I know that I don't know what you what you observed in the day's climate, but there's a lot of different things that's it makes people want to say, I don't want to vote for none of the above or something, because it's been so big issues. We know your interest because of the military, and one of my first jobs out of college was at the CIA, and so I know all about top secret clearance and code word clearance, and I know all the issues that come about when those things come into play. But I know that was a strong relationship that you had with John Paul as well. So.
Yeah. Well, Jay, we think about the disagreements we can have within one county or one little town, with people developing hatreds for one another, and they don't have to love each other, but open your ears and speak words of comfort and joy to other people. Worship our God. It can be very, very pleasant. But I've watched people all over the world. I've been all over the world, had that opportunity, and to see the hatred that develops country by country for folks, not just because they don't like the way someone else looks or the color of their skin, but they don't agree on something that is important to them apparently, but it's not something that the community needs to agree with them on. But come together and try and figure out how to make things work well for everybody, and it's fun to do it, and it makes life better for somebody else, and that's a wonderful thing to do. You do it for your own family, and do it for others.
Oh, I mean, you talk about Harrison, and Harrison's such just a great town. That's why people move here. I mean, that's why people want to retire here. It's a quiet town. It's close to everything, but you're still in a small town. And every time I get opportunity to, talk about Harrison, I'm all there. There's a documentary coming out on the '98 team on the SEC network, and I've got to see a little bit of it, and I talk about Harrison on that, so that's good.
You mentioned that you got to do a little bit of pitch for real estate, because that's been another job you've been doing.
Yeah, it is. And over the last few years, and once the foundation grew and grew and grew, wasn't not as able to. I still do real estate, and always will. Not able to dedicate as much time to it as I did back when we just had girls' kids and football camps, and then when this stuff starts growing,
I thought,
things like that, and then our EYES program, that's I think in 4 or 5 states now, EYES Champion program for kids that can't afford eye care and glasses. It keeps us all busy, but we still do real estate and all, Vic and I, we like to travel, and we like to go to
All right, you'll find that the wrap-up section starts with a discussion of Waymo, and whether it's way more or way less, it's yet to be determined. I know that in their situation, because it didn't come directly to our door at the Airbnb, and it wouldn't drop us off there either, it was a little bit of a disappointment when you got over 110-degree weather, and you might have to walk a block or a block and a half or two, and you may have to go up and wait for a while to get it, for it to arrival. So we tried a few things different there. We went to a Walmart and got it there, and then it still didn't drop us off directly in their location. So that in itself, for people with disabilities and older people, is not good. So they'll have to fix that. But the cost of it was reasonable, and maybe even less, I think, in Lyft or Uber, and so I don't have any problem with that. It's just in the heat of the summer, it's not the best option, and so we did that. And then as far as a wrap up, I talked about some places that we went to, and some of those places like Caracas, Venezuela, and then on Viña del Mar down in Chile, and then later on we talked about going into Peru, up in the Andes and the mountains, and we had a great time there, and we got a chance to eat cuy, which you're going to find is kind of interesting as far as the food, and we kind of got into that and all of the other things that you might kind of come across. But I tried to bring in some videos there to so you could see that Arequipa, because it's basically got some volcanoes around there, and the way the city is being a white city, it's got a lot of marble or ash or something there that comes from the volcanoes. But the temperature year round is about 72 degrees. It's just ideal location and weather, and just perfect setting that most people don't even think about as far as going there, and culture, and a lot of things that are quite a bit different, say, than down in Lima. And I know people go to Machu Picchu and other places there because of the tourist nature of it, but this is some place that people that like to travel and go out. This is one place that even Sid had commented on it. Not ever been there before, and we did have a cable system there, and it was from UIH, and they owned a lot of property around the country. And I've got another consultant I work with a lot in Denver, that I'm sure we'll be discussing some things similar to what we do with Sid, not as much on a personal level, but on a professional level. But we do have a lot of personal overlaps too, because of some things with illness and other issues that he's faced. And recently, he does have a rum distillery over in Maui, and he wasn't affected by the fire directly, but indirectly there were some issues there, and he has a brother that's over there, and he's having to take care of his wife, and he's in Denver right now. But so you kind of keep up with those people, and those are others that I'll probably be catching up with at a later time. So I hope you enjoyed this, and then I have a wrap up from Christy that I wanted her to talk about the trip, and you can tell she's a little tired and not the most cooperative as far as an interview at the end, but still it's important that she had the opportunity to say some things, and it's really been a good, I think, good for her, and it's really been good for the family to get out and do something like this. And so I'll be looking to see your thoughts and other things as we kind of move along here. Thanks.
Dad, this is not the car you ordered.
Take it easy, Rusty. Ed, this is not the car I ordered. I distinctly ordered the Antarctic Blue Super Sports Wagon with the CB and the optional Rally Fun Pack. You didn't order the Metallic P? Metallic P? No, Antarctic Blue. The sports wagon. This isn't even the right model. You know, I think you're right. I don't think this is the car. This is the new Wagon Queen family truckster. This is a damn fine automobile, if you want my honest opinion. Beats the hell out of the sports wagon, but I want to make you happy, huh? Davenport! I'll get to the bottom of this. Yes, Mr. Ed. Mr. Griswold ordered a blue sports wagon. Where is it? I don't know, sir. I know what must have happened. It didn't come in. Ed, I'm not your ordinary everyday fool, okay? Now, I'd like my Antarctic Blue Super Sports Wagon right now, and if you can't get it for me, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Where's my old car? I'm just as upset as you are, believe me. Davenport! Get Mr. Griswold's car back and bring it back here! I can get you the wagon. There's no problem there. The problem is it might take 6 weeks. Now, I owe it to myself to tell you, Mr. Griswold, that if you're thinking of taking the tribe cross-country, this is the automobile you should be using, the Wagon Queen family truckster. You think you hate it now, but wait till you drive it. I don't want to drive it. I just want my old car back, okay? I'm not falling for this bit. No way. Let's go, Russ.
Well, there's one other thing I wanted to say about riding in the Waymo. It was kind of, as Christy described it, a non-event. It was different, but it's yet to be determined whether it's a Clark Griswold or Tom Cruise or Indiana Jones type of vehicle. I think it's got a lot of promise, but for people with disabilities or people as seniors, it's going to have to come to the front door if you're at an Airbnb, and you're going to have to bring you back to the front door of an Airbnb. That was the convenience of a Lyft, being able to come to your front door and then bring you back to the front door and still be on an app. So that's to be considered.
Okay, Joe, I just wanted to get your talk on it. While you were diagnosed with Parkinson's, and also I know you've worked with a car dealer, and we're going to be driving, or we're going to be riding in a self-driving vehicle, and there's a lot of people who's got intimidation or intimidated by that. And I know that it may be something when we get there, we look at it and say, this is not for me. But, we're going to look at it. We're going to do the Chevy Chase and Vacation type of look over, and we may be forced to drive it because there may not be an option there. But I just thought you might give us a little background on, when you found out you had Parkinson's and how it's limited you.
I found out in December of 2011.
Okay.
And it has limited me in my right hand a good bit. I thank the Lord I'm left-handed.
Now, were you retired when you found that out? Or
Yes.
So you had already retired, and you were living here, and so that was a big part of that.
Yeah, we moved here in 1994.
Yeah. What do you enjoy doing now? Anything? I know you enjoy Mississippi State football.
I love Mississippi State football. I like Arkansas when they're not playing Mississippi State. Let's put it that way.
Well, good.
You can drink my liquor, you can call my lady, you can take my money, you can smoke my blunt, scuff these Jordans, you can say you hate me, you can call me crazy, but don't touch my truck.
I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, cause I love my occupation. Hey, I'm on vacation every single day, every single day.
Yeah, Sid, I was want to cover some of the, I guess, wrap up here and some of the places that we went to that maybe we didn't spend as much time. But one of the things I think
We saw the world,
yeah.
At least in Latin America, we saw the continent.
Saw all over that, and some of the funny places or different places was one of them. I thought was going to Venezuela and going to Caracas. I recall on that, it was pretty much you got a first class trip there, and on the airline, and it was one of those things that when we got there, though, it seemed like we were just visiting a potential client and staying at the hotel because it's pretty. It wasn't safe there. I mean, I think the guy told us that, and he kind of.
Let me tell you, the first time I went to Caracas was I went with when I still worked for Hewlett Packard. I went with Bill Hewlett.
Yeah.
We went to Caracas, then went to Sao Paulo. And when I first went to that's the first time I went to Caracas. I was very young, just out of school, and Caracas was a beautiful city. Freeways, steel and glass skyscrapers.
Oh yeah.
Restaurants that were incredible, beautiful. One of the best seafood meals I ever had in my life was at a restaurant in Caracas. Beautiful people, beautiful everything. Stores, everything was wonderful. It looked like a first world country to me.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I went was about 30 years later. One of the last times, Chavez just came into power.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing started going downhill. He was kicking people out. He was introducing socialism. And what was once a thriving economy, once it was injected with socialism, it started deteriorating. Then it turned into communism. Then it fell apart. And the last time I was there was after you and I went. I went down there for something. I can't remember what it was. And it was scary.
All right.
I had a taxi going down one of those main streets there, and it seemed like on every corner there was like a 15-year-old soldier with a machine gun just looking at you like, give me an excuse to shoot you, Man, I circulated around, went back to the airport, got on the plane, went home. I was through there. I've been back since.
Yeah, no,
I've never seen a country deteriorate quite as fast and go from such a high to such a low.
No, I think the driver he had a Glock or something.
Oh, listen, we went to see this guy that you wanted to check the technology or something. And
yeah.
They said, okay, we'll go to the airport. He said, don't go with the taxi. My guy will drive you. We said, okay. We got into this car or something. And he pulled out a big, long 45. I've never seen such a big 45, a barrel about that long. Put it under his leg. He was driving like that, and he had that 45 under his leg. And I said, do you think you'll have to use that? And he says, who knows?
I think he has before.
Get us to the airport as fast as you can, man.
Well, the other place I want to wrap up is talk a little bit more about. Oh well, we went to Chile, I guess, or whatever, and we went over to Santiago, but we went to the coast there, and I think you had spent some time on the coast.
Yeah, I used to live when my dad was a diplomat with the U.S. government. We lived in Viña del Mar.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told you right close to Valparaiso. There's a university there, the University of Santa Maria.
Right.
Many years ago, I played basketball for the university there. And so we lived
You got any, I guess, I don't know if you'd have any tapes of that, but I guess it might be some drawings or something, or pictures maybe, huh?
Well, the only thing I remember about playing basketball there was one of the last games I ever played. There was about 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
I don't remember all the detail. I've told it so many times that probably I've got it all confused. But so in my memory, the way I think I saw it, 10 seconds left, we were 1 point behind. The point guy was to bring the ball down. We had a center, a 6'8" center, a guy named Bruno Lutzinger.
Okay.
And whichever way he went was the strong side.
Yeah.
If he went this way, it was the strong side. I came on this side, the point guy came on that side. If he came on my side, mine was the strong side, and the guy on the weak side was supposedly going to take the shot.
Yeah.
So we go down, the center went over to the right, so I went down, it was my shot.
Okay.
The center went that way. He was our main guy. People shifted kind of that way to block him. So they hit me with the ball. They had a nice little jumper that I've been making all night.
Yeah.
I jumped up, shot. The ball hit the back of the rim, bounced up in the air, and when it was about that high, the buzzer went off.
Oh.
And I lost by 1 point. I don't even remember how I got home. I don't remember getting home. I don't remember anything. That's
one of those.
When I think of playing basketball at Santa Maria, that's what I remember was that. Of course, it was 60 years ago. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, I think the other story is when we went to, and we were doing stuff in Chile with the UIH there. Again, that was the one that we worked with in Europe, and they had ownership all over the world. So that's why we were doing some stuff in Chile. But we went to up into Peru, and what I remember about landing in Lima and walking around there is like we said, with the people walking around with the automatic guns and everything, everywhere you went. But it was kind of unusual in the sense that you would see, people with pick and shovel, drill, I guess fixing for the fiber optics cable or something, that was kind of, you just say, well, that seems kind of odd. And then you might be on another street, you might be, there might be some cockfights or some other things going on.
Dog fights or something.
Yeah, all kinds of fights that you wouldn't matter about. But it was kind of away from everything because we flew out to Arequipa, and Arequipa's up on the Andes, and it's just such a beautiful city. And I know that a lot of people probably don't ever go there, but it's really a beautiful city, and it had a great setting. And we talked to the cable operator there and spent some time there, and then eventually they took us out to a meal, and we had the Peru delicacy, and I think you're the one that first lit up about that. I'll let you describe a little bit of that. Arequipa and that, if you
Cuy. They call it cuy. They had a lot of different names for it. Cuy, I told her was a rat.
Yeah, the presentation is something different.
It's actually more like a guinea pig, but I told her it was a rat. So they brought it out on a plate, and the rat was. And I remember you turned around because you didn't want the rat looking at you. So you turned around. He was all cooked, but he had his eyes out like that. It tastes like chicken, right?
I guess, yeah, everything like that.
All those kinds of things taste like chicken.
Well, we went to a lot of places. I can definitely remember that. There's no better steak than there was in Argentina and Brazil, that's for sure, when we went out to those meals. But, we did kind of experience a lot of other things too that went with the culture. I mean, we tried, I think, and that's the, smelling the roses. Sometimes you have to do that in order to win over people because of the cultural differences they may have. So that was kind of the point there, is that you run into a lot of things you wouldn't expect, and I didn't know anything about it. You probably knew more about it. That was a delicacy.
Well, I've never been to Arequipa before. That was the first time.
Yeah,
I'd heard of it as a white city.
Yeah.
I didn't know what they meant by that. Now I saw it because there's all that. What kind of rock was
I
that?
don't know.
They told us. I can't remember. It's almost like a white marble.
We're going to have to Google that for sure.
And
Somebody
the
else
buildings are all made out of it. The walls and everything. It's just a white city sitting out there. It's at the foot of a gigantic volcano called Misti.
Yeah.
Misti.
Yeah.
And they claimed if we would have gone around on the backside of that volcano up in the hills, that we could watch the condors fly.
All right.
But I'd never seen that. It was a beautiful city, unusual city, kind of like a celestial city out there.
Like a castle or something.
Yeah.
Being that way it was. I could imagine back in the old days or something, nobody could have got to the people, getting there to start with. And again, anytime you start thinking about Arequipa, you think about the Andes and the music of the Andes because you're right up there with it. And so anytime you hear that, it kind of always, as we said before, it strikes a certain emotion because of just the sound itself. And so.
And the main song is the one called El Condor Pasa, the Condor Passes.
Yeah.
El Condor Pasa.
Yeah.
And that's a very mystical song. Yeah. And the music and the wording and the singing and so forth. Simon and Garfunkel did a thing on that. They had some crazy words on it.
I know, and that's why
the music was
it got to be real popular when they had it. And every time I hear that version and hear some of the things we heard there, it's just kind of, it's hard to make the match. But
well, the wording that Simon Garfunkel used was kind of weird, but
yeah.
But the music itself, you close your eyes, it just creates a picture in your mind. You know, like I said earlier, I hear it today and I still get nostalgic and get that weird mystical feeling, you know.
Well, I think
Yes, I would. If I could, I surely would. I'd rather stay away like a swan that's here and gone. A man gets caught up to the ground. He gives the world its saddest sound. Its saddest sound. I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Yes, I would. If I only could, I surely would.
like to relive all these things, and we'll have it out there so you can see it, and we may have it in some other things. So I really appreciate your time coming by.
Thank you for everything.
We've had such a great memories, and I wanted.
Let me just say one thing here. One thing that Herb has been to me is a great example of loyalty and honesty, and I appreciate that because that's rare. Those are rare commodities today.
Yeah, well.
But
it's always knowing that you weren't going to get into any trouble traveling together. We always had great times together, and we had a lot of fun, as we kind of described.
Clean fun. We had good fun. We could talk to our kids about.
People can do that traveling, and that's one of the other points is you can do a lot of things and just go out and take the time to kind of look at things. Just like the Evita team, her name is Duarte, or the family. You know, it was fun to go out there and traipse around in the rain and find where she had been buried, but I don't know if people hardly understood, you know, the impact there. But we did go see the Evita, the movie, while we were down here at one point. People stood up and applauded, and what she meant to the country. So there's a lot of things you take away from those events and things we did together. That's why I wanted to kind of go back and reflect on that today. It may be something that other people see and get a better understanding of getting along with other people, the differences, but also just getting along with friends and traveling and getting.
One thing you do when you travel like we and I did, you meet all these different people, you realize the human family is basically the same. Kids in Peru or Indonesia, and I lived in Singapore for a while. You've been all over the Mideast and all over the place. People love their kids. They want good things for their kids. People are basically good. And if we could just bring out the goodness in the world, it'd be a different place.
Man, I think we have to leave it at that, but that's a great point, and I think that's what we're trying to, make sure people understand. So, thank you.
You bet.
Build a house where you feel safe, and if you call my name, then I'll be there. Over the hills and far away, looking out for a better day, when it seems like there's no
October morning in the Ozark Mountains, hills are blazing like that sun in the sky. I fell in love there, and the fire's still burning, flame that never will die. Moonlight dancing on a Delta levee to a band of frogs and whippoorwills. I lost my heart there one July evening, and it's still there, I can tell.
but when I do, I will never be far from you. You're in my blood and I know you'll always be. Arkansas, you run deep in me. Magnolia blooming, mama smiling, mallard sailing on a December wind. God bless the memories I keep recalling, like an old familiar friend. And there's a river rambling through the fields and valleys, smooth and steady as she makes her way south. A lot like the people whose name she carries. She goes strong and she goes proud. Oh, I may wonder, but when I do, I will never be far from you. You're in my blood and I know you'll always be. Arkansas, you run deep in me. I may wonder, but when I do, I will never be far from you. You're in my blood and I know you'll always be. Arkansas, Arkansas, you run deep in me.
Okay, we're back in Harrison now, and I was going to get a final report on Christy's trip. We did do the Waymo thing. What was your thought on the Waymo? What did you like or didn't like about it?
It was just a different experience.
Well, was it something that because it didn't have a driver in the front that bothered you or didn't bother you? You didn't seem to be too excited either way, so I didn't know if you.
It was just something different.
Okay, so it's different, but it didn't really bother you riding it. You think you might at some point? It was all done by an app on your iPhone, and I just called it and clicked and opened the door, and we got in. And because we had I had my walker with me, it caused a little bit of an issue because we were trying to buckle our seats, and we were in a Walmart parking lot. So that was kind of funny because we were trying to get situated, so we didn't get much of a video of getting in there. But I just thought it was at least an experience, and there's some things there that they could do better, and there's some things that might work in the future. But when I think you enjoyed the old city there of
Old Town Scottsdale.
Okay, Old Town Scottsdale. And what did you enjoy about that? Just going around and seeing the places? Or what was it?
It was unique.
Unique, and you got to see a lot of souvenirs, and you got to see a lot of things that the Indians and cowboys and everybody else had done as far as things that put together. And what did you end up buying a shirt or something? I forgot what you got a shirt on there.
Yes, I got a shirt.
Okay, and then you just got to see a lot of things, and we got to go out with our good friends out there. And what did you think about how they helped us get around as far as Sid and Sharon?
It was unbelievable because I couldn't have done it myself.
Yeah, and they just been over, and I know they're not in the best of health as far as Sharon, and Sid, he's just kind of the same old Sid. He never slows down, and he's a lot of fun, and he's just always thinking of something different to see and do. And so by getting to, we were close by, the Airbnb was not too far away, so it was easy to get over to the old town. And then the next day, we went out to I guess out into the countryside, and we saw a lot of the big cactus. And then what else did you enjoy about being out there in the country?
It's just neat, different atmosphere.
What about the houses you saw up on the hill?
They were not cool.
Cool, weren't they? Some of them, he said, were worth at least $10 million, and they set up there in the hillside of there, and it was just kind of interesting to see. And then there's kind of an old town type western town that we went to and walked around, and we also went to eat at a place there. And what do you remember about that place? It had a big little pond and things in there. And what else did
you could feed the fish. People could feed the fish.
You got some food to feed the fish?
Yes.
And so there's a little different thing as far as their Cave Creek and what we know of Cave Creek, Newton County, but it's a good, exciting place to be. So we had a great time there. And then we came back, I guess, on Sunday, and we did at evening go to see the Glenn Campbell band, the ones that after Glenn died that kind of kept it together. And did you enjoy anything particular about that?
Yes.
What did you like about that?
It was like going to Branson.
Yeah, they'd been to Branson's quite a bit.
I know, but it was back in Branson again or something.
But they were doing a lot of old songs from Glenn, and they did some other people's songs, and so it was good. It was a good entertainment. And it was, it's out at the musical instrument museum. We didn't get to see much of the museum, but you could tell by the way it was situated with the auditorium. And I think there's just about 300 that go there, and it's full and sell out. But we enjoyed that too. And then on the I guess the day before we left, we got to see Sid got to take us out to where he was born, out in Mesa, Arizona, and we got to go by the outsides of the grounds and see the big building there that they call the temple. What did you think about that? The grounds there and the building.
Just unique.
Just unique. And then we went over to I guess there's a gift shop, and we went in there and we kind of looked around, and they had a model of the temple in there, and you could kind of walk around and see what it looked like. Mm-hmm. And then we went upstairs, and there were some real nice people that helped us with, if you wanted to find out about your history, all your relationships, and where your family came from.
I mean, it's just different. It's just something different.
But you could access it now on the computer, so you can go in here and maybe find out things you didn't really know or didn't have a reason to know. Maybe now that's going to be of interest. So, all right, just to wrap it up, the Sid and people like other people that we met and were around, particularly when we went out to Mulder's office there, and how what he had done as a golfer, and some other things that you saw. We know that they commented about this being their happy place or their happiest place. And we know Sid's moved around a lot in Sharon, so that they look at it from a different view than maybe we do as going in there because of the heat. But anything your thoughts about what you liked about
Phoenix?
It's just
a unique town.
And there was a lot of things you probably didn't know till you got out there, as far as what they had as far as shopping and places to see.
Or you can always Google it.
And you went to the museum there, and to the Western Museum. That was fun too. Yeah. We got to see a lot of artifacts there, so that was the other thing that's good. Well, you're glad to be home, I'm sure. We've got green grass, and at least for now, not had any tornado blow us away or anything else that comes in the Midwest. So, and I know Ozzy, he's really helped. He's been laying there just really peaceful, but he was real excited to see you. So I guess that we'll just wrap it up at that, unless you have any other things to say.
Yep.
Well, I mentioned on several occasions hints and talking to people that, particularly in the Rocksteady Boxing, that where their happy place is, because it's obvious that they would be good opportunities for other shows in this docuseries about people finding their happy place. And I mentioned, the fact that we have a person that's really strong in manufacturing and second employee at Pace, and Pace now has their headquarters in right outside of Detroit. And of course, their first office was here in Harrison. That Clyde, with his experience, it would be a great opportunity to go there and visit the Ford Museum as far as automobiles, and that would be one situation. Obviously, New York's a big opportunity there. We got a lady that's writing a children's book, and she could be going there, or maybe St. Jude's in Memphis, Marlo Thomas, or anybody involved in that would be a great opportunity to introduce them and introduce the book. And of course, the obvious things that we have there with Ruth, and the fact that she's a retired Navy nurse, would be meeting Alan Alda in New York or going out to California. So I could see something with Denver. Particularly, I have a great friend that I worked with internationally as a consultant, much like Sid, and he's running a business in Maui, which he had no effects, or no direct effects anyway. I'm sure he had some indirect, the recent fire, but that would be a good place to go and follow up. And I noticed that Elaine suggested that when her airlines and obviously connections there, and probably with a lot of the hotels, that would be a great opportunity for either her to go there, and even Denver. So there's some things there, and I would suggest even the people like Chip and Joanne Gaines and the Fixer Upper to have visits there, and possibly in the Waco area, of course, in Dallas, and we're neighbors there in Oklahoma, so a lot of people that we can see there as far as some of the entertainers. Blake Shelton's over there, so that would be another possibility. I know my daughter went to see Blake, and we went there in Little Rock. We had an interesting experience with Ticketmaster, which I think that in itself is a concern. There's a lot of concerns that I had with maybe Ticketmaster, Allegiant Airlines, Frontier, and a lot of other companies that I had experiences with that I kind of knew how to handle them, but still people would travel more if they got treated better. And again, we're talking about people, we're not looking at, people are not looking for handouts, they're looking for just great service or good service, because there's a lot in that 26% in the U.S. that have discretionary and disposable money to spend, but they're not going to spend it unwisely. They're going to have good opportunities. And, we're talking about $1 billion globally, so that opens up a lot of possibilities. So there's a lot of things to think about, and that's what we're looking at in developing this first phase, the pilot, which may come out in different segments, but still, I think I think when we get a chance to kind of fine tune it, really the opportunity and the market's there, and we think we'll get some good distribution at the time. I know I'm talking to some people that have done quite well in this business, so we got a lot of things coming down the road, but I appreciate the support we've had so far. Thanks.
Look at them yo-yos, that's the way you do it.